This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, fine friends. We are here at the wild dog sighting. They've just moved a little bit. So my plans are for today, stay with them. I promise there are wild dogs there, everybody. They're just very, very well concealed. There you go. Exciting stuff. Well, we're already off to a good start. Now I'm very, very excited. It means there's going to be a lot of action. So everybody, I hope that you're ready to jump on board for your live safari through the African bush. I promise there is a wild dog behind there, but because of the heat of the day, it's 26 degrees Celsius, 79 degrees Fahrenheit here on Djuma Game Reserve, but I suspect it's gone up just a few degrees since we last checked the temperature. So these guys will be lying flat for a little while, but action will definitely follow them. And when that happens, we want to be around. We're in the silver cluster leaf thicket. It's quite pretty. It's me, Trishala, and I've got Carrot on camera with me this afternoon at Djuma Game Reserve. Quite warm, like we said, and we're hoping that we'll be able to get a better position for these wild dogs. At the moment, it's quite sticky. Lots and lots of silver cluster leaf around. But that's exactly what they'll need. They'll need to find an area that's nice and shady, because they can overheat very, very quickly. So this is the Sands pack. It's the same pack that Tristan had this morning. And they've just moved a little bit further east. They're actually a little bit closer to camp than they were this morning. Awesome. So remember, this is your live safari, so use that hashtag WildEarth and of course at FC on the YouTube chat stream, and give us your questions and your comments. We love to hear from you. Remember, we have several locations that we're coming from, all of them with their own unique set of animals and beauty and presenters and your guides. I'm sure it promises to be an exciting one. Look, if you were driving past, would you ever think that an endangered species is lying up there? Never. That's why it's so cool to spend this time with them. Anyway, let me send you over to Tessa now to say hello.
So I'm sitting in the Timavati riverbed with the Birmingham breakaway pride of lions here at andBeyond in Ngala. They were actually moving at around lunchtime, which is how we found them. And now they've come across the river and settled in the shade. It has all of a sudden heated up like you can't believe in the last hour. There's still some clouds in the sky, but the sun is really baking down on us. And so I think they're just trying to lie in the breeze at the moment. You can see that one with its paw up, trying to get a breeze over its stomach. So my name is Tessa. I'm going to be your guide on safari this afternoon here at andBeyond in Ngala. Behind the camera we have BK. And this afternoon we're hoping to stay with these lions for a little bit longer and then actually head east towards the dam, see if we can find those wild dogs from this morning, which I'm hoping will be around. But this pride of lions is the previous part of the Birmingham Pride before they split up a few years ago. And we actually don't see them very often, so it's really amazing to see them this afternoon. I haven't seen them in quite a while, over a month. So this pride consists of the same 2 Ross males and then quite a few lionesses. One of them is actually the sister of the oldest lioness in the Birmingham Pride that has the white spot. And here we also have quite a few sub-adults. I'm not sure exactly how many lions are here, but we'll try and figure it out. Maybe we might catch 1 or 2 yawning. I'm going to send you over to Taylor with some swimming elephants.
Well, we're starting our afternoon off at everybody's favourite location on Pridelands, and that is, of course, Tswalu Dam, which is appropriately named. Seen as though we see these wonderful grey giants not almost every single day, all day. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Sebastian Rombi. It's good to be back working with you again, sir.
Welcome back to you.
Thank you. It's good to be back. So like I said, we are here at Pridelands Conservancy, which is part of Greater Kruger as well as Baluli Game Reserve, which is really exciting. Now, I do have to tell you something, because we spend all day, every day at Tswalu Dam looking at the elephants, the buffalo come down, but today we have a new visitor, which is exciting. So I've been waiting for this moment. It's not an uncommon sight. It's just that this hippopotamus that you can see in the corner has been absent for quite some time. Hello, Hippo. He's not, I'm saying he, I'm assuming right now, as I can only see part of his back, his eyes, his nostrils and ears, so it makes it quite difficult, but I would imagine all on its own, probably a young bull that's been told to move along and spread his, I actually don't know where I was going with that, but anyways, to go and venture off and go and find new places to hang around in. Now, I don't think that this hippopotamus is going to last here at Tswalu Dam, purely because of the amount of activity that we see. We've obviously seen the elephants that have been swimming about, and I did hear quite a few oxpeckers rattling off in the distance, so I wonder if the buffalo are maybe just in the drainage line, just to the east of the dam. So this was quite exciting. Krishna, yes, the elephants at Tswalu Dam have a pool party every single day, all day. So the breeding herds come on through, spend a little bit of time, and then they move off. But what we're looking at right now are the bulls, and we see the same elephant bulls, if not twice a day, coming and doing the same thing and sort of playing about and splashing around. It is such an awesome opportunity to be able to watch elephants like this and to see their behaviors and then to also get to know certain individuals. Obviously, some elephants are easier to tell apart than others, whether they've got broken tusks or big tears in their ears or whatever the case may be, really. And we become quite fond of certain individuals. Others are red flags because they're naughty and they come and cause trouble in the camp, because the eco-training camp is literally right on the doorstep of the dam. But it's quite exciting here with the elephants swimming and rolling about. We're definitely not going to move from the dam. Off you go across to Juma, where it's a bit more of a sleepy scene.
Oh, swimming ellies. I love swimming ellies. But what swimming wild dogs? That would be awesome too. These guys are in a very, very, very nice bit of shade, and there's quite a few of them here actually at the moment. I'm not sure how many members there are in the Sands pack, but they look like there's about maybe 15 dogs that I can actually see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, about 12 that I can see. They're all taking it quite easy for the afternoon. I'm getting in touch with the inner puppies. And just lying up. Well, if you'd like to get in touch with your inner wildlife enthusiast, won't you hop over to our website, wildearth.tv/explorers, and learn all about our WildEarth Explorers program and you can be part of it. David, you'd like to know what my favorite thing about wild dogs is? It's gonna sound very 5-year-old princessy, but the puppies. It's my favorite thing about wild dogs. Their puppies are just adorable. They also have such a close bond between all of the members of the pack. And when we think of altruism, I think they're a great example of true altruism in the animal kingdom. They look after their sick. They let their pups eat first. They take care of each other so well. I'm going to have to just help these people get into the sighting. Because we got out earlier before everyone else. Fanoti, it's just me at the sighting at the moment. You're welcome to join. Space for 2.
Copy, thanks. I'm making my way straight in.
I'm sure this will become a very busy sighting. At this time of day, it's so difficult to find predators unless we know that they were in a certain area. Like we did with the wild dogs. I also love their coats. I think that their coat patterns are really, really special. Their big ears, their call, so many things to love about them. Very, very cool. Actually, they are very cool because they're sitting in the shade, cooling down. Leopard lover, you'd like to know if wild dogs wallow in the mud? Can't say I've seen them do it. I've seen them roll around in dung before. But Gert says that he's seen it before. And that must be quite amazing. And I can imagine why. Them being so hot and being overheated, or easily overheated, the mud really would protect them by retaining moisture and blocking out the sun, like it does with other animals that wallow. That must be quite a sight. I'm imagining it hardened and then they're like statues. But I'm sure it doesn't work like that. Gert shakes his head. No. Other vehicles are joining us now. So we're going to let them have a nice space and we're going to look at them. And I'm going to send you over to Tessa with some lions in the meantime.
So we're back with the Birmingham Breakaway Pride at andBeyond in Ngala, and the young male has actually moved further up the bank towards his mother, who is just behind that grass, lying flat resting. And he's actually quite alert. I've been quite surprised while we've been sitting here. He's been looking around, listening, watching us as well. And now he looks like he's finally starting to drift, but you can see how much the flies are bothering him, flicking his ears. And I think, again, it's because we've had some rain. And now the sun is out, the insects are going to be out in force tonight. So he's quite a beautiful young male. You can see his mane has started to grow around his face and his neck. And we think he's around 2 years old, maybe just a little bit older. There, he's finally going off to sleep. And to the left of him, there's actually an adult that's still lying flat on its back with the one paw in the air. But if you have a look at that paw, it's quite incredible to see the amount of padding underneath. And that's the secret to how lions can stalk to incredibly close to their prey. And that padding is incredibly soft. It's cushioned, so it makes their footsteps very soft. And the claws are retracted. They'll only come out when they really need them. So it's actually very interesting if you look at a lion's tracks. It's not quite the same as a leopard. It's got the same shape. You can see it there on the paw pads. 3 lobes at the bottom of the palm, and then the 4 toe pads. And they're quite spread out compared to a leopard's, but when a lion walks, it doesn't necessarily put the back foot on top of the place where the front foot was, like a leopard. They actually walk a little bit more relaxed. Leopards actually tend to place the back foot directly where the front foot was placed when they were walking, and that allows them to walk even quieter. But with a pride like this, it's actually quite easy for us to see their tracks because there are so many. They usually walk in a straight line. And the size of a male lion's pad would be bigger than my hand, almost the size of a dinner plate. So that female, her paw pad would be about the size of my hand extended like that, which is quite impressive. But it's definitely heating up as we go into this afternoon. It's getting hotter by the minute, it feels like. So I think pretty soon these lions are actually going to go from sleeping to moving around and finding more shade as the sun moves. Dizzy, we think that some of them do. We are not 100% sure. We haven't, seen any white lions in this breakaway pride, but it is very likely that the older females do carry the gene and might pass it on to some of the younger generation. The Ross males do have the gene, and so if they do mate with a female that has the gene in this pride, some of the cubs would be white. That being said, we don't see this pride often enough to know exactly how many cubs they've had in each litter, so it's possible that they actually had white cubs and we just didn't see them. They were killed or abandoned possibly before we met them. But yes, it is definitely possible, especially the oldest female in this pride being the sister to the dominant female of the Birmingham pride, who definitely carries the gene. She's had 2 white cubs that we know of in the Birmingham pride, and then her daughter had the other white cub, the older male. It would actually be very interesting to see if we have any of the white lion gene coming through. I'd love to study their genetics and see how many of them actually do have it. But I guess the best way for us to find out is just to keep watching them through the generations and see if any of the cubs are white. I would almost think that by now, if many of them carried the white gene, that we would have seen at least one white cub by now. So maybe one or two carry it, but maybe not the whole pride. They just look so nice and relaxed. It's unbelievable to think that there are at least 7 lions here. But because they're just over that dip and the grass is nice and long and green and lush, you actually can't see them hiding in the shade. It would almost be quite easy to drive past them if that one didn't have its paw up in the air and you couldn't see the white on the belly. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to leave them sleeping here for the afternoon, head towards Clara Dam in the east and see if we can maybe catch up with those wild dogs from this morning.
Obviously, in nature, there are many different things that we get to see, but often we don't take enough time to just sit and listen. So that's what we'll be doing for the next few minutes. Wasn't that just absolutely beautiful? There's nothing quite like listening to the splishing and splashing of the elephants playing about. They really do enjoy themselves when they're in the water. And it's always really, really awesome to have moments like this. And we must remember that we can also use our other senses.
Our dogs are still quite sleepy, and we have some other vehicles that want to join in the sightings. It'll be the last segment just for now, and we'll obviously return a little bit later so that we can see the action. You would never think what formidable hunters they are just by watching them like this, sleeping like our dogs at home almost. But unlike our dogs at home, they are endangered, which means that their numbers are dwindling and dwindling and dwindling, and we're very, very lucky here to be able to see them so often. Grand Yoda, you like to know how long they sleep? It actually kind of depends on the weather. So if it's really hot and sunny, then they'll sleep for the majority of the day, and they'll basically stop hunting by about 7, 8 o'clock. And then only start up again around 6 And if it's a really hot day where it goes into the evenings, 30 degrees, then they may only hunt it when it's full darkness. Unlike us, predators have few means of cooling down besides finding a spot of shade, or as we learned, wallowing in some mud. They have few other ways to cool down. So for these guys, panting, finding some shade, and those big ears, although adapted to hearing well, also assist them with cooling down. But despite that, they overheat very, very easily. And they're one of the few big species of animal that are directly affected by climate change, in that the longer the period of hotness in the day, the less they will hunt, because they will overheat, which means that they may not eat as well. And then the knock-on effect is basically the elimination of the species. I just want to show you a little friend of mine. Look at that. Beautiful. Hello, beautiful. Will you be my friend? It's my jumping spider buddy. I love them. They're so pretty. They have such pretty faces. And they tend to appear in the sightings, which is nice because you get 2 sightings in one. Rosalind, you have a really important question. You'd like to know how many wild dogs are left in the wild. I'm not sure about in the whole world, but in South Africa, there's only about 3,000 dogs left. Individuals, and when they count 3,000 individuals, they count 3,000 breeding adults. So we're not counting, or breeding aged adults. So we're not counting pups. And that's in South Africa. So that's not a lot, and that's actually not in South Africa. That's in the whole of Africa. About 3,000 to 5,000. In South Africa, it's much less than that. In South Africa, the population is less than 1,000. But in Africa as a whole, it's about 3,000 individuals. Some statistics say 5,000, so something between that. But that is a lot. Less than you would want for a large continent. When I remembered the number, when I remembered 3,000, I thought, my initial thought was South Africa, but then I remembered, no, that's Africa. There's a far fewer wild dogs in South Africa. I remember there being 700 quoted for South Africa once. I remember there being about 300 at one point. But also remember that those are numbers that are constantly changing. People are constantly counting and counting differently. So we are very, very lucky to see as many packs as we do. some of the reasons that they are endangered and the number is so low is that they're often thought of as pests, or especially in the past thought of as pests, because they would take cattle and farm animals and things like that. And those are people's livelihoods. So they would often get trapped or shot. And they're very social creatures, so part of the pack gets obliterated somehow, and then there's a whole instability in their social system, and causes a lot of problems for them. There have also been other hypotheses like stress, environment, or environmental related stress, as well as climate change, all that kind of thing, that could be possible reasons for why they are so endangered. Alright, I am going to send you over to Tess, and I may have to move on from the sighting, but I think I might not have to, but I'm going to have to check first.
Well, the elephants are slowly starting to move away from the dam, but this elephant has paused just for a moment to have a scratch up against an enormous apple leaf tree. It's a pity we aren't closer, otherwise you'd hear that sort of sandpaper-like sound as he rubs his thick skin against the trunk of the tree. And this is, of course, a favorite rubbing post of all the elephants. You can see it's completely smeared in mud. That nice. I always feel sorry for animals that don't have hands like you and I, and have to rely on an external source to get rid of an itch. There is nothing more annoying. I mean, okay, there's lots of things that are quite annoying, but not being able to scratch where you need to. I'm also very, very interested. He's been spending quite a bit of time at that broken part of the trunk of the tree, and I think that it's at a very nice angle that allows him to scratch underneath where his chin would be, also between the folds of skin where you can see the tusks protruding. That must be a very itchy spot, but they spend a long time rubbing up against it. And because it is summer and, well, the sun is baking down on us, it's also now the perfect tree to stand under and cool yourself down, that it's got leaves. You can just see there's a couple of leaves dangling there. Twisting his trunk around, just having a bit of a smell. Very curious about all the scents that are there. You're going to have another rub. Yes. Look at that, getting right up and underneath the neck. Bubbles, so we're looking at the biggest elephant that you can get, the African elephant. And obviously in terms of size, it's going to vary from elephant to elephant. Some elephants are blessed with enormous genetics, and actually in this area, the Greater Kruger, where you can find some of the largest elephants. Quite some time ago, there was 7 elephants known as the Magnificent 7, and some of those boys weighed well into 7 tons, which is quite big. An average elephant bull will probably weigh between 5 and 6 tons, that's large. It's not a small animal, and you realize how big they are. Even a 3-ton elephant or a 4-ton elephant, when they stand right next to your car, you realize how big they are, and they're quite tall. In this area, the biggest elephant that I have seen is an elephant by the name of Ezulwini, and we were very fortunate to see him a couple of months ago. We actually had an unbelievable sighting of him. Really, it was so dramatic. He was walking so gracefully towards us. We just backed up nice and slowly, and then he did something very similar to what these young elephant bulls were, not covering himself in mud and shaking his head like that, but he went down to Leopard Dam and he walked from one side of the dam through the water to the other. Now his tusks almost touched the ground, so it was quite a dramatic scene. We had the beautiful blue skies with a bit of cloud in the background. It was quite pretty, and perhaps some of the lovely people who are always posting on social media will be able to share some of those images with you, and you can reminisce about that sighting, because it was one of my favorite elephant sightings. I don't think I've actually ever seen a big elephant bull like him. So fingers crossed that Ezulwini does make his way back towards Pridelands, and hopefully right down towards the eco training camp, which he's also quite fond of. I think that this elephant bull, once he has finished adding the last final touches of mud and smearing it down onto his legs, will go and do a similar thing and pretty much copy that other elephant and go for a bit of a scratch. But it is a peaceful scene. I must tell you something very funny that happened, because the elephants are now disappearing. You obviously can see the hippo down on the left. We had a breeding herd of elephants move on through, and I kid you not, Mr. Hippo put his head underneath the water and pretended to be a rock while the breeding herd moved past him. He didn't move an inch, and they came probably about a ruler's length away. So that was quite interesting. But we're going to stick around here and see what else happens. Off we go across to Juma, where Tristan, of course, yet again has found a leopard.
Well, we've gotten lucky on this particular leopard, because we got some insider info. But I think all is right with the world, because, well, we're with the leopard and Taylor's with elephants, and that generally makes Taylor happy and makes me happy. But for those of you that don't know who I am, Taylor mentioned, my name is Tristan, and on camera I have Marcel this afternoon. And the leopard that you're looking at currently is Tundi. She is fast asleep. She was seen earlier in the day, funny enough, in a tree off of the main road, and so we came down here to try. It's in a really tricky spot, because it's right up against the Muluwanini on Chitwa, where it's kind of like this dead zone for signal. Nothing gets in there. It's also a really tricky spot for cars to get in, but we've managed to kind of find her in the shade, and she's having a really good sleep. She, like pretty much all the leopards we've seen over the course of the last few days, is also sporting a nice kind of rounded tummy, so expect with the kind of leopard of this experience would have been taking advantage of the lambing season, much like all the others have as well. So I think for her, it's about just staying cool. That's probably why she was up in a tree a little bit earlier. It's just making it the most of the breeze that was blowing. And now she's kind of come down, find herself a nice little shady spot, particularly because there was some impalas that were nearby, and I wonder if she didn't spot them from the tree, came down and then was watching them a little bit. There we go. Good afternoon, Tundi. Yes, welcome to this afternoon's drive. She's still so beautiful, even though she's such an, kind of on the, well, I wouldn't say she's such an old leopard, but she's on the older side of her life. She's still so pretty. She's got this very dainty kind of little face to her. Her ears are starting to sport a few kind of nicks and cuts and looking a little bit eroded, but other than that, the rest of her body is in perfect condition. She's still got this kind of beautiful golden colored coat. It's one of the things that I love about her lineage, is that they have this kind of typical coloration to them. They all have quite a deep gold color. It's really prominent when you see it in good light, when they're out in the open. It's amazing how different their color is to that of the lineage that we saw this morning, which is in Zutini. And even in Sele, those leopards have a slightly different color to them than what these guys do. And it's always such a pleasure to spend time with her, especially. Silicon, she has one cub at the moment, a young male that's about 8 months old now. And we see him not that regularly, but it's because of where he likes to live. So this Muluwanini drainage that I was just referring to now, if you follow it north, it takes you up towards Torchwood, to basically a little dam called Leopard Dam, where there's a big rocky outcrop and a beautiful drainage section. And he's pretty much been staying there for most of his life. Every now and then he ventures away and kind of goes to kills with mom, but for the most part, that's where he kind of hangs out. And for us, it's a tricky place to negotiate. It's not easy for cars to get in there. So he's not seen nearly as much as what Klalamba was when Klalamba was on Juma. If she comes onto Juma, generally she's found and then he gets seen there. But he's getting more and more relaxed by the day. I had such a wonderful sighting of him last week. We spent over an hour and a half with him and he did not even bat an eyelid at us. So he's starting to get better. He's not quite as relaxed as Mom just yet, but, you know, with age, he'll get better and better. And the more we see him, which is starting to happen now, we're starting to see him a lot more frequently now that we're on Torchwood, the better he's starting to get. So it's been really, really nice to kind of see that cub develop. And obviously for us, it's always kind of bittersweet when you see these cubs, because with her, it could potentially be her last litter. I mean, there might just be enough time to squeeze another litter if she's successful with this cub. Because she is getting older. She's now, 14 years old. And so it's still going to be at least another 6 months to a year that she's going to be with this cub. And that will then put her, you know, at almost 15 years old, let's call it. And that would be really on the upper limit for a leopard to have another set of cubs. So I don't think we're going to have too many more from Thandi, which is a sad thought because she's such an incredible mom. Even though she has lost cubs in pretty much every litter she's had, she's successfully raised every litter bar one, which is a member of that litter bar one. So she's done really, really well. It's difficult to raise cubs in this predator-rich environment, and so for her to have had so much success has been really, really special to watch. And for me, it's always nice because this cat has been my favorite cat that I've spent time with in the Sabi Sands from a female point of view since pretty much the early days. The first time I saw her was in late 2010, early 2011, and she was just kind of starting her life as an adult leopardess and had just had her first litter of cubs, and from there got to see pretty much every cub that she's had since, which is an amazing thing when you think about it, when you kind of sit back and you realize that you've had the privilege of spending time with a leopard and being able to see every single one of her offspring as she's had them and as they've grown. It's a rare privilege, that's for sure. Right, well, we're going to sit here and enjoy Thandi. Hopefully she's going to wake up a little bit. There are some impalas milling about, so that's always good. In the meantime, though, we're going to send you down to andBeyond Phinda, and one of the most beautiful animals that I'm so jealous we don't get to see much of here.
Welcome to andBeyond Phinda this afternoon, everybody. We're sitting with two white rhino here at this watering hole. It's myself, Devon, guiding you this afternoon, and behind the camera we've got Glenn. And our plan this afternoon is we've come this side to look for some cheetah. There was a mother with cubs seen around here not too long ago that we were quite keen to come and find. And as I came past the watering hole here now, there are these two beautiful white rhino that have come down. It's quite a hot day here at Phinda, and quite windy as well. They've come to the watering hole to drink for the afternoon. So there's two bulls that are down here, very slowly, just drinking. If you have a look at their ears, you'll see that their ears are constantly swiveling independently of one another. Because of the wind, they can't actually hear that well, so they'll really be trying their best to keep an ear out for anything that might potentially harm them. And if you look on the side of their body, it's covered in dry mud as well, so that would have been most likely from earlier today. You can see the big wide front mouth of the white rhino. These are grazing animals, so they eat predominantly grass, and their mouth is really perfectly shaped to consume large amounts of grass. Hi, Dezes, that's a very interesting question you've got for us there. I really enjoy watching rhinos wallow, so as well as drinking water, they'll often go and roll around in the mud. There's actually quite a lot of mud around where we are right now because of this watering hole, and I think one of my favorite rhino encounters have definitely been watching mothers and youngsters rolling around in the mud, wallowing, and then you'll often find that after they've rolled around in the mud, they'll go and scratch up at a scratching post. So watching rhino do that's always very special. From where we're sitting now, there's actually a couple rhino. I can see some off to our right and to our left, another group that all look like they might be making this way to drink. This is the only watering hole for quite some distance in this area where we are now in the south of Phinda. So all these big grazers are going to need to be coming in to this watering hole to get their afternoon drink. Slowly walking towards us now. You can see there's also quite a lot of flies buzzing around this bull. Often find that there'll be flies sitting on the back. But I think this wind is now quite disturbing for them, so maybe a little bit harder to land, and they're just flying around. If you look down a little bit, you'll also notice now that he's out in the open and facing us, you can see his feet really nicely. And very distinct 3 front toes that he's got there, which are very distinctive in their tracks and quite easy to see. But for now, we're going to keep on moving and looking for these cheetah and leave these rhinos to drink in peace.
My favorite animal is a leopard, purely because I just think they are just the epitome of feline grace and power, and the way they can move about in any environment and remain hidden until they want to be seen, I just find incredibly intoxicating, and they're amazingly beautiful.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth. Join our Explorers program so we can keep on sharing nature with the world. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic WildEarth expeditions, have access to an animal identification app, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn connects a global population with nature.
My name is James Hendry, and I work here at Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi sands on the western fringes of the Greater Kruger National Park. My favorite part of getting questions from viewers is that we get to have long and varied discussions about all sorts of different aspects of nature. Because our audience comes from all over the world, it's very special to have different perspectives from everywhere. If you want to submit a question on WildEarth, you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to the Live Safari page and submit your question beneath the live feed.
Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name attached to her, so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Juma. If you become a WildEarth explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag, which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
So I'm sitting at Clara Dam here in the east at andBeyond Ngala. And actually, as I drove up to the dam, one of these little hippo calves was actually out of the water. It's gone back into the middle of the pod where the adults are and where it feels a bit safer. And now they look like they're just relaxing very close to the edge at the moment.
Afternoon station, can I get written findings, please?
So it's actually quite interesting. I was hoping that it would be hot enough to have some elephants or maybe even a pack of wild dogs here. But I think it might still be a little bit early. It's still going to get hotter as the day goes on, and I'm sure the dam will become more active. But I found it quite interesting that even in this heat, one of those hippo calves was out of the water. With their sensitive skin, you would think that they would stay in the water right up until the evening. But I think being a calf as well, you know, the little ones are more curious. It was actually standing behind a log that's up on the bank. It's quite a beautiful day here. Very light breeze blowing. There's actually some impalas coming down right at the back of the dam there. I don't even hear many birds calling. It's like we're in this little bubble where everything is just nice and peaceful and still. Well, telling males and females apart, if we're talking about hippos, which I think you are, is actually quite difficult because they're normally submerged, so you would need to have a look at the overall size of the hippo. Males are a lot larger. They can get up to 3.5 tons, whereas a female might get to maybe 2 to 2.5 tons. So females are quite a bit smaller. But you can also sometimes see it just if you have a look at the size of the tusks. Males have very large tusks, or the canines that come out of the bottom of their mouth. Other than that, it is incredibly hard to tell because they have internal testes, so you can't even see their genitalia on the outside. If you look very closely, you might be able to see a bit of a penile sheath, but it's quite hard to see with hippos. So normally, you would have to look at the dynamics of the pod as well as the overall size of the hippos. The biggest hippo is usually the dominant male, and there should always be a dominant male in a pod of hippos. So his job is to defend his harem or his pod of females and youngsters. So I think I'm going to sit here at the dam for a little bit longer and just see what comes down as the day warms up a bit more. We're actually going to send you over to Tristan, who has a leopard as the known leopard whisperer.
Exactly, we are with a leopard, a very interested leopard, because these impalas are getting ever closer towards where she is. You can see she's completely focused now, straight through underneath that tree. It's difficult to see, but past this fallen over tree, you might just see the flicking tails of the impala just at the back there. And they're slowly kind of edging closer and closer towards where she is. And so she's just sitting and watching them. And I think she's calculating, all right, where's my next move going to be and which way am I going to go? So she's deadly focused on that. And then we're just sitting back here because I didn't want to move at all. As soon as we kind of spotted the impalas, if we were to move, we're only going to end up disturbing the sighting. We're going to end up those impalas looking in this direction. Whereas if we just sit quietly like this, you know, the chances of kind of her being seen is a lot less than us moving around. Interestingly enough, though, there's also guinea fowls that are alarm calling not far from us, but they can't be for her. They're not close enough to be irritated at her. They're calling on the other side of the drainage line. So I wonder if maybe her little one is around, or potentially Kuchava. Where we are right now is the kind of boundary of Tandi's territory with Sabui and Kuchava, all kind of hanging around in this area. It's a bit of a mix of female leopards where we're at the moment. But I love watching her when she hunts. You know, she's so skilled and so calculated. After all these years, the experience, she knows exactly what she's looking for. And you'll see the way that she kind of watches and is a lot more patient than a lot of other leopards. If you compare her kind of way about her to Inzutini this morning, she's a lot more measured. She's a lot more calculating. Inzutini is a lot more kind of charging around, which works for younger leopards because they just hunt so much more. But she will kind of figure out exactly where she needs to be. She'll wait for the impalas to do what she wants them to do before she kind of moves and changes as to what she's going to kind of think is best for the hunt. I also think that she's busy watching because she's hoping to see some signs of potentially a little impala lamb, maybe. I haven't seen a lamb at the moment. It looks like one adult male and then 3 or 4 females that I can see. But I haven't seen a small one, and I expect her to be looking and watching in the hope that there's a small impala in amongst them that she can potentially hunt. And what I reckon is going to happen here is that these impalas are going to drift past from left to right of the screen, and they're going to go into a much thicker area where she's got a nice line that she can move without being seen. She can hide behind a whole kind of row of bush willows, and it will hide her approach towards those impalas. And if that happens, she can kind of cut them off in the direction that they're heading, because they would both be moving at an angle, and eventually that would come to a point in quite a nice little thick dense area, which would be perfect for her. So it's going to be really fascinating to watch how she kind of maneuvers herself around these impalas. Right, well, we're going to sit here and just be patient because she's still got a lot of distance to close. And while we do that, let's send you down to Dev at andBeyond Phinda with his rhinos that appear to be quenching their thirst.
Welcome back to Phinda. Thanks, Tristan. We've still sitting with these white rhino at this little watering hole here. The two that you can see in picture now are actually one of the other two that I mentioned earlier were quite close by. So the two males have moved off, and this mother and her quite old calf have come in to drink. There was a little bit of tension between the two males when these two arrived. The calf didn't take long to go down and drink, but the mother was a little bit more apprehensive, and she waited for the males to move off before she moved in and started drinking. But it's really interesting. So we've had those two bulls here. There's this mother and calf, and off to our right, Glenn's going to pan across for us, and we can see another two rhino, also white rhino, that are slowly moving in this direction towards us. Now, where we are in the south of Phinda, there's these big open grasslands. You can see the bush and stuff around here is quite sparse, and there's lots of this quite green-brown grass at the moment. In little low-lying areas, it's a little bit more green, and really good for white rhino because of that. And they, like I said earlier, feed on grasses, so this is just perfect habitat for them to be spending their time. And on a hot afternoon, no better place to be than at the watering hole. So I think most of the rhino will probably be coming through this region this afternoon. This bull now on the right, I'm not sure if it's in frame there, is moving towards the other two that are coming down to try drink. I'm not sure, there's a little bit of vocalizing that's happening there. They're making a bit of noise. Just before we came on screen here, he was scent marking. So he's now walking towards those two. And he's chasing the one's running. Thanks for that question, DL. I've never seen them submerge themselves completely in water, not like elephants do. But I have seen them, like I said earlier, you can see these rhinos are covered in mud. And they'll get that by rolling around and lying down in much shallower waters, like little pools of water, or in mud baths. So there's sometimes, as the water's drying up, it's only left mud behind, and they'll roll around in that quite often. Oh, this female on the left's not happy. So the other male is now approaching them. He was giving her a hard time when they arrived. Calf's a little bit more inquisitive. You can see the male's tail is curled up, not too dissimilar from how a pig's tail curls up, and that's actually a sign of distress. So he might be a little bit unsure, maybe curious. This is quite an old calf, so in the next while, I suppose this mother might be coming into estrus again, the larger female. You can see she's quite keen on drinking. So we've actually got 6 different rhino here, all in the same little space, which is absolutely incredible. bull's moving off again. These white rhino are much more social than black rhino, so they don't like and they don't really tolerate random individuals approaching, but the distance that upsets them by is quite a small distance. You can see that bull's quite close. Now the female's gone back to drink again. With black rhino, they're much more antisocial and in very few places will congregate in numbers. So this is very special to see here. The group of rhino across on the right are now seem to have formed a bit of a crash. Hi Oscar, that's a very good question. Thank you for asking. White rhino in particular, will be pregnant for 18 months, and that's how long it'll take for them to fall, obviously from falling pregnant to dropping their calf. And they have quite an interesting little dynamic that happens when they have their calves as well. So the mother, if she's had a calf before, will keep it all the way through her pregnancy up until she drops her new calf, and just before she drops her new calf, she'll chase the old calf away. And that older calf, now not quite old enough to be fending for itself, will often go and join on to other females with older calves. And we call that a satellite calf. And then until she also again falls pregnant and chases those two calves away, we'll have two calves that are with her. Ooh. But these males are really causing some problems here this afternoon. The two largest animals here are the two males. There's one on our far right and then one at the back. And they are quite inquisitive, coming in really close to smell some of the other individuals. And that's not being tolerated today. They don't seem too excited about them being here. Now the two males are on the far right. And then the mother and three slightly younger individuals are on the left-hand side. Ooh. And that bull's just going to lie down now. How crazy is that? A little bit of conflict. He decided he'd had enough of being... Oh, now the two bulls are playing. This is just incredible sitting here watching this. Beautiful afternoon light. There are a couple of water birds around us that are calling, and these 6 beautiful animals slowly socializing and interacting with each other. And that bull who was causing a bit of problems earlier has now just gone to sleep. If you look at him though, you can see his ear is still pricked up, the one on our side. I'm sure the other ear is pricked up too. And he'll still be listening for anything that he might think is threatening or dangerous, and if something like that starts approaching and he catches wind of that, then he'll most definitely stand up again. This calf on the left is still drinking. She's been drinking the whole time we've been here, which is amazing. Taking on lots and lots of liquid on this day. It was very warm here today in Phinda. I was just saying when I left the lodge that thought it was nice and cool, but when we got out into the field, it actually turned into being much, much warmer. So these rhinos are going to carry on for the next little while here, I think. They're interacting, socializing, and drinking. We are now going to leave them. We're going to go and cut across to Taylor, who's also got another animal at a watering hole, it sounds like. And I'd love to see what's happening there and if there's any difference in the behavior this afternoon.
Time, if you just say elephants, that's normally what we have for you at Pridelands, but we take full advantage of this because, and I've said this before, but I will keep saying it, it's hands down the best elephant sightings I've ever had in my entire life, but definitely in my years of guiding. I've never seen interactions like this with elephants, and also being able to see the same breeding herds over and over. They normally move around quite a bit, but this is also another reason why we love the elephants so much, is because even though they are the largest land mammal, look at that. So elegant in the mud and go down so easily. But normally it's quite funny. Rubbing your belly, making sure it gets smeared full of mud. This is quite entertaining. Also just have a little nap. I'm sure it's quite nice and cool. Although with the clouds coming over, the temperature has dropped. It's actually been quite a pleasant day. It hasn't been too warm at all, and I think everybody is thankful for that, because as we move into December, it's only going to get hotter. Oh, look at that. So we were having a discussion the other day about elephants and, well, in general, what animals wallow. Because, as you know, Mike and I work for Eco Training, and we are a part of a company that trains people to become safari guides. So we obviously have to teach people from the beginning. Some have been on safari before, some have never been to Africa before, the sort of ins and outs. Now, obviously, wallowing describes animals rolling around and covering themselves in mud. We know that buffalo do it well. We know that rhino like to do it well. Warthogs do it too. And then there was much heated debate about, do elephants wallow? Now, if I look at this elephant is definitely wallowing to me, especially when they start to run around. And he might not sit here all day long like a buffalo would, because he's trying to get up now. Oh, hang on, we've got some hippo action. I'm going to change my train of thought. Check, Seb. The hippo's come to say hello. Hello, hippopotamus. Do you want to come out the water? What you doing? Doesn't look like a very old hippopotamus. Oh, you've got a bit of a twinkle in your eye. Hello. Yeah, I think it's a young male. I'm going to just say that until he decides to climb out of the water. Please don't leave. Please spend a few days. Oops, off you go. Across to Phinda. Something exciting's happening.
Welcome back once again, guys. How amazing was that elephant? Covered in mud, throwing mud all over itself. Such a special sight. These rhino also, I mentioned earlier, will do not the same thing. Obviously, they don't have trunks, but they'll cover themselves in mud by not using their trunks. Oh! The big bull's had enough. Not the one that went to sleep, the one that's still standing in the middle. So that's actually the mother, sorry, beg my pardon. She wasn't too happy with that other sub-adult coming close to her. It's now standing quite close to her calf, and they're having a bit of a tussle. She's making sure that the other youngster doesn't come and get involved. What a beautiful sighting to sit with for the afternoon. These rhino are really engaging in very, very interesting behavior. It's not every day you get to see something like this. I think this is very special. Those two that were having a bit of a tussle are just jousting, so maybe having a little bit of a practice. As they get older, will compete for females and for territory and for dominance, but at this point they are just practicing and playing. It's a bit of a game, I think, for them. You can see them rubbing their horns together. Our bigger bull that just lay down and went to sleep is still fast asleep on the right-hand side. And when rhinos are fighting properly, their tails will actually curl up, so they'll roll over, and you really see they'll get quite aggressive with one another. And that's how we know these two are just playing. There's a lot of dust blowing across through the scene as well, a bit of a photographer's dream, I think, with some golden light here. could really make for some beautiful photographs and beautiful photographic opportunity. When you've got animals interacting like this, it's really, really special and nice to photograph. The rhino closest to us looks like it had a wallow earlier in the day. You pan across there for us, Glenn. So those two bulls have now, the two that were here originally when we got here, have gone and lain down right next to one another and gone to sleep. So they were causing a bit of the drama with the mother and her calf initially, and now they've just, eyes are closed, heads down on the ground, and they've gone to sleep. I think we're going to spend a couple more minutes here seeing what happens. Oh, there's one that's now getting in trouble and really irritating the mother. Luckily it can reverse quite quickly. We're going to spend the next little while here. We're not going anywhere. This is a beautiful scene. We're going to send you across to Trishala, who's got some wild dogs.
Our wild dog puppies are well and truly asleep. I see a paw. So cute. All up on its lonesome. Now, if a wild dog puppy paw doesn't make you smile, I don't know what will. Just absorbing the cuteness going on here. The light is beautiful. They look so warm and content. Oh. I love wild dog puppies. They are so cute. They're also a little bit stockier than the adults, especially when they're very, very young. They almost look like a corgi to me because they look stocky and short legs. Here's another paw. Dion, you'd like to know when wild dogs will form new packs. They'll reach sexual maturity and independence in about 18 months, but they'll disperse any time between 18 months and 3 years old. It's usually the females that will disperse, but males will too. They'll go find themselves another pack and be the breeding female in that pack. It happens in a very staggered way. So all the males in one pack, the brothers, because remember, wild dogs have huge litters, and in fact, theoretically, the alpha female can give birth to a new pack every year. And when they disperse, you have breakaways, a bit of this, a bit of that, and usually all the males in that pack, the male cohort will disperse, and the female cohort will disperse. Sometimes the males will too, sometimes there'll be a combination of them before they actually settle into a pack of their own. The beta female in a pack will also sometimes mate and produce pups. And if that does happen, the alpha female can sometimes take over the rearing of those pups and the feeding of them. And in fact, the idea that the alpha female will seek out and kill the beta female's pups is not one that is well seated in any research. It's a type of thing that was witnessed by somebody at some point, but in fact what they had seen, or what they're likely to have seen, is the exception rather than the rule. Most of the time, the alpha female will more likely take the beta female's pups into her cohort and raise all of them together. But remember, those are large amounts to feed. So generally, they try not to only one pair will reproduce in a pack. Right, sleeping very, very silently, very adorably. So I'm going to send you over to Tristan and Tandy, see what those double T's are getting up to.
Well, Tandy was stalking and then she just kind of gave up. She didn't really try too hard. She walked about 20, not even 15 meters, and then plunked herself back down again, and then, well, as you can see, is starting to fall asleep in a little shady spot. The impalas have drifted now quite far away. There was no lambs in that little group, and I think after she saw no lambs, she was just like, nah, I'm not interested. Her tummy is full enough, and it's not like, there's not going to be plenty of opportunity to find little lambs at some point during the evening. I have checked around to see, I thought maybe because she was in a tree and with a full tummy, potentially there could be a kill somewhere, but it doesn't seem like that. All the trees around us are empty. And the tree that she was in definitely doesn't have anything. So unless it's lying on the ground somewhere still, I don't think there's a kill that she has. I mean, I might be wrong. You never know. Maybe it's stashed under a bush here somewhere. And the thing is if it was a kill, I expect that we would have seen the little one with her. She would have gone and fetched him and brought him back. So it would explain kind of why he's not here. The other thing is it would also explain why we haven't seen her for the last 3 days. Maybe she's been on a big kill already. She kind of took him to it, they fed, and then she's taken him back to that kind of drainage line area, and then she's come back south to her hunting again. Often when you don't see a leopard, or you don't hear of a leopard being seen for 2-3 days, it's generally that they've found some sort of food item, particularly that cub, because he was being seen almost every day by the landowners on Torchwood, because their camp is exactly where he likes to hang around. He's been lying on their decks and doing all kinds of naughty things, as leopards generally do. And they kind of were reporting daily sightings, and he hasn't been seen for the last 3 days, so I'd expect that's why, they haven't been, is that they've been on a kill somewhere. Maybe she got herself an impala. It was the last time she was seen was the night before the really kind of big storm that we had. So she might have utilized those weather conditions to find herself a good meal. You can see she's breathing quite fast, considering she's kind of in the shade and it's not a very hot afternoon. Her rate of breathing is still quick, but that's because of that full tummy. Stuck in bed, there'll probably be quite a few unique markings on her, given that most leopards have quite a number of different spots. But the one that I always look for with Tandy is she's got 3 bars over the top of her left eye that are kind of in a row. So that's what I always look at. You can't see it now because of the fact that we're on her right side. But on her left eyebrow, there's these 3. I'd imagine somebody like James Richard would be able to have some photos of like tail, rump, those kinds of areas, and unique spots that they use there. But for me, that's always what I use. Is just firstly, it's just easy to tell her apart. She's quite small in comparison to a lot of our other big adult females. Her ears are quite tatty now. But also her face is so distinct. When her sister was around, Shadow, it was a little bit more tricky because the two of them did look quite similar. Shadow had a pinker nose than what she did, but those 3 bars over the top of the left eye was always, for me, the easiest way to recognize Thandi. Shame, girl. Has it been a long afternoon already? I always know with her when she's hungry or not, because when she sees an animal and she's hungry, she goes into kind of full-on mode where she'll go low and she'll trot almost to get to that prey animal. Whereas today she was just kind of watching, and even though the impala were moving, she really wasn't making huge kind of movements to get closer to them. She kind of ambled rather than stalked, you know. She didn't really get onto her tummy and kind of get closer. She just hugged the tree line along, I think hoping that they would get closer more than that she would have to actually physically try and hunt them down. I expect she's just waiting for it to get darker. Her experience tells her that hunting now in the bright light is a lot harder than in the evenings, and so I expect she's just waiting for that to happen before she decides to actually actively start marking territory and looking for food. You know, we'll stay with her. I'm pretty sure she's going to get up to something. You never know. Maybe she goes back to the cub. There's also been alarm calls of other things, so hopefully we'll find her somewhere around here with the cub at some point.
So we're just going to spend the next couple of minutes sitting in silence watching these rhino interact. It's a beautiful opportunity just to really soak in the atmosphere of what's going on in silence. How special was that, just to sit here and get to watch them interacting? There's beautiful noises around us. I think for now we're going to move off and carry on looking for our cheetah, but it's been really, really, really special sitting here watching this magnificent interaction.
As you can see, poor Thandi has just flopped down and decided far more comfortable. Sorry, girl, did I laugh too loud? It's decided it's time for a nap. The good thing, though, is that there's a little bit of cloud cover in this breeze that's blowing, and so I'm hoping that with that it's cool enough she'll get up fairly early this afternoon and walk around. There's water close by, so maybe she'll go and have a little drink for us and then carry on her kind of patrol. But for now, it's, I think, sleep time for the next little bit while it starts to get a little bit darker. But you can see that tummy now that she's lying the way she is. It's kind of a little round ball in the middle there. So it's got a nice little fat bump, which I would imagine was a good meal. It's big enough to have been, I think, probably bigger than a lamb, maybe one of the first lambs that was born that's grown a little bit. Or maybe multiple ones. One time I actually saw Thandi on Chitwa. It was in 2012, I think. She, in the space of 2 weeks, she had 3 duikers in the same tree, and then a few weeks later, she had 4 impalas, baby lambs, up in the same tree as well. So she's not one that doesn't like to go after multiple kills, and when it comes to lambing season, often takes advantage of that with multiple kills. And it's quite something when you come up to a tree and you've got 4 little baby impalas hanging from it. It's not the most, well, it's not the nicest thing to see. It's a little bit macabre, I must be honest. But it does happen. The most I've ever heard of was 7 impala carcasses in a tree, and I know Karula once also had, I think it was 5 or 6 in a tree at one point. She also had quite a big stash the one day, so it does happen. And I find it's the females more than the males. The males typically, they kill these lambs and eat them pretty quickly, but the females, if they've got cubs, they often kill and then hoist, and then they kill another one and hoist, and kill another one and hoist, and then slowly but surely the cubs and the female work their way through them. But you can imagine if they're newborns and they don't really know what they're doing, it must be so much easier than hunting these big, wise adults that have seen them coming and going for years. They're a lot more wary, whereas those little ones, when they're just born, if she can find a female that's giving birth, even better, because she can rush in long before that little one is even able to stand or move around. The other thing with them is because of how little they are, they often make a mistake and they run kind of towards the leopard, or, try and bolt but the wrong direction, and the leopards grab them. So experience is a huge thing out here. And it's why, like I said earlier, watching her is so fascinating, because you can see she's so much more calculated than a lot of our younger leopards that we're seeing at the moment. All right, talking about resting animals, we've got Thandi, who's resting here. It sounds like Trishala's got the resting dogs, who also had little round tummies this morning.
I promised they were doing something before they were on the road and resting again. There's a little bit of movement going on. Every now and then, they're getting up, playing. The adults have moved a little bit closer to the road, and now these puppies are on the road. There's a few that are still off, so it was really nice to see them move. Oh, look at this. Curious pup. We were very lucky that they were quite curious about us, and they kind of resembled the hyena cubs in the way that they peered up at us. Very, very cute. Look. Not a bother. Hey, pup, what do you smell? That was just a heads up to all you guys out there watching. It's just starting to cool a little bit. I think they might make a move and start hunting earlier today. I'd say by 6, maybe even 5:30. Although in the sun, where we're sitting at the moment, it's still beating down. I love to see them hunt because it's a very, very special very special experience. It's not like how any other animal hunts, and that it's done so quickly and with such precision. You know, from all the predators that we have out here, their success rate is far higher than any of the others. Lions, leopards, it's under 30% success per hunt. But with the wild dogs, that percentage is much, much higher, and that's because they have the whole pack to help them. Dion, was it Dion? You were asking about the speed of a wild dog, and that's important when it comes to us chatting about the hunting techniques of a wild dog, because you know they course. If you think about an average impala, it's about 80 kilometers per hour. That's pretty fast, 70 to 80 kilometers per hour. A wild dog averagely is about 65 kilometers per hour, but can reach up to about 70 kilometers per hour as well. So their strength comes in bursts of speed, multiple pack members having that speed capability and all coming from different directions. And they're nimble, they're so athletically built that to watch them hunt is such a spectacle. They're not stalkers. This little cutie is sleeping in a mitre drain. A mitre drain is kind of a conservation strategy to remove runoff when it comes down a road, because when it rains there's no trees, roots, soil, everything's loose on the road, so we don't want everything to get washed away all the way down. So we have these drains called mitre drains that you can see off there. And a little pup is sitting in the mitre drain. Very cute. I know that I'm sending you away from the pups for now, but we will stay here and do enjoy the other location you're going to.
So we've carried on along our route for the afternoon, and we've stumbled into a couple of Wildebeest. And if you have a look at the one that's now feeding on the right-hand side, as just across the road, that's an adult female, and she's quite heavily pregnant at the moment. You can see her belly's really wide, and probably in the next little while we'll have a calf. This herd that we're sitting with now, though, is predominantly females and youngsters, with one male in the middle here. And they are slowly just making their way through the grassland, just like those rhino we were sitting with earlier. They graze, so they eat lots of different types of grass and move around quite a lot during the day as they do that feeding. Now, these guys are still feeding here. They'll probably spend the next little while maybe slowly moving towards water later. But they are really just taking it slow here. They're most of the individuals have got their heads down and they're grazing. This bull that's nearest to us had his head up for a little while, but now I see he's dropped that down as well. Jane, I'm not actually too sure about that. We don't often spend too much time with Wildebeest and Phinda here, so once a day is probably a normal amount, but I do stand to be corrected on that. And these animals are now moving in the direction of that watering hole we were sitting with a little bit earlier with the Rhino. They do seem to be heading off in that direction, so maybe that's what they're doing now. If you look at some of the individuals in the front, you can see that their horns are a lot smaller and still quite pointy. They point straight up, and their horns will only start curving around as they get older. So when they're born, they actually don't have horns. The horns grow out when they get a little bit older. And Glenn, if you want to pan across to this male on the left here who's now down on his knees, and he's just having a lie down. For a moment there, it looked like he was going to start horning the ground. He's rubbing his face in the dirt there, and a bit of a dominance display. So while these wildebeest are in this area, they're in his territory. So he'll try his best to keep them here and chase off any other males that might be coming into the area. If you have a close look at his horns as well, they are quite a bit thicker and longer than the rest of the herd, than the females, and obviously the youngsters who have got short little horns. And they're much thinner, and that's quite for across the board. You look at buffalo, which are quite similar. The younger buffalo and the female buffalo have much skinnier horns than the fully grown adult males, who have those big, lovely horns that we're so used to seeing, and that thick boss to protect their skull on top of their head. But a very peaceful scene that we're sitting with here now. Kind of a strong breeze blowing across from our right-hand side. They're all happily feeding. Hey, leader, that's a very nice question you asked. I'm not sure if you watched this morning's WildEarth. Busani was out at Phinda here, and he actually managed to find a buffalo female, not a wildebeest, buffalo, who had gone off on her own and must have missed her giving birth by a matter of minutes. The calf was still very wet, and a very beautiful scene to see. And you'll find a lot of the animals around here will move off on the side and give birth on their own, and give the calf a bit of time to get strong and get up and get moving with the rest of the herd. Just a little bit of a safer spot away from the rest of the animals, maybe in a bit of a thicket or something like that. You can see where these individuals are now. There's not much place to hide away. If one were wanting to hide away for something like that and be a little bit more safe, perhaps, in a time where they would be quite vulnerable, actually, to predators like lions and maybe even leopards, or a coalition of male cheetah. A female cheetah that we're looking for this afternoon wouldn't pose a threat to these wildebeest or to their calves, really. She's too small. These wildebeest are actually quite strong and big, and especially that big male that we saw, he's really a powerful animal. And for a female cheetah on her own, she wouldn't be wanting to hunt that at all. It's too much risk for her, and she's not really big and strong enough to take down a wildebeest, and her teeth are actually quite short as well. So for her to successfully suffocate one of these would just be too hard. It's not a viable hunting opportunity for her. If you watch the dynamic of this whole herd as they kind of stand here, at any given point in time, I'd say maybe 80 to 90% of the heads are down and they're feeding. But there's always at least one. There's 3 on the left now and 2 on the right who have got their heads up and are just scanning around. And being an animal that does get preyed on, they need to be quite aware of their surroundings. They need to have their eyes and ears open and peeled. They've also got an incredible sense of smell, like most animals, and will be smelling for the scent of any predator that might be approaching or trying to sneak up on them. So that's actually one of the biggest benefits of living in a herd, is having all these eyes and ears. They're constantly on the lookout, and while one individual's feeding, there's always going to be someone else who's looking out for them. And for the most part, it's quite a successful technique. Not always, unfortunately, for them, but that's just the way that it works. These individuals on the left who were feeding now have now who weren't feeding, who were keeping out have now dropped their heads down, and there's some other individuals left out who are now not eating and are watching out. But I think we're going to leave these wildebeest to carry on for the day. They are quite happily feeding away here, maybe very slowly moving towards water later this afternoon. But as the temperature cools down now, we do expect the cats to hopefully be starting to get a little bit more mobile. As the sun goes down, still plenty of light to see what's going on. So it's a really nice opportunity for us to get moving and increase our opportunity of bumping into something spectacular. So for now, we're going to say cheers, and we'll see you again in a bit.
Oh, I agree, Dave. It's about the right time for cats to start waking up. It's really cooled off quite nicely. And it's a beautiful, beautiful evening after the kind of cloudy weather we've had the last sort of 2 days. The sun is just out, but it's not a hot kind of summer's afternoon. It's a really nice temperature and a slight breeze and the perfect conditions for movement. Not that you would say that from Tundi. She's still asleep at this stage. She hopefully, like I say, is going to wake up soon. She's not, there's no real reason for her to move other than for water and for her cub. When they've got full bellies like this, it's not as much about them going and hunting and looking for food. You know, when a cat's thinner, you know that they're going to get up at any point to go and try and find something. But with her, the only motivators to move will be to mark territory, the cub, and water. Water's pretty freely available at the moment, and she might have drank before we found her. We don't know. Or, she might have been with the cub this morning already and is not really planning on going back there for tonight or maybe even the foreseeable future. Sometimes with her, she can leave that cub for 3-4 days without going back. Well, as far as we can tell. Sometimes they can sneak in without you even knowing that they were there with their little one. But we'll see how it goes. What I might do is just pop down to Tswalu Dam and see what's happening there. Somebody was there now and they said there wasn't very much, but you never know. Maybe some ellies come down. I haven't seen any ellies since I've been back. So it'd be nice to I did. I saw a small herd of elephants yesterday morning. But it would be nice to go and spend some time with a big herd, particularly a herd that potentially is swimming at Tswalu Dam. So we'll see if we maybe do that while we give her a bit of a chance. I'm just hesitant to leave her because we're the only ones with her, which is a special thing. It's one of the nicest parts about this kind of quiet period is that we've managed to spend a lot of time with cats on our own, which is very, very special. All right, we're going to stay here for now, and we'll see if she decides to start waking up. In the meantime, I'm going to send you across to Taylor McMuddy with a hippo that's impersonating her and rolling in the mud.
The only difference is that I can't open my mouth as wide as this hippopotamus, which is what he was just doing. I think that's what Tristan was referring to, because I constantly talk and make a lot of noise, so I suppose I have my mouth open all the time. Anyways, it's interesting times here at Ndlovu Dam. Obviously, we are making the most of this sighting with this hippopotamus. in case he ventures off this evening to go and find greener pastures. I really do hope that he hangs around. But he's starting to wake up a bit more. He's been quite docile for most of the day, as hippos are. Sebastian, you cannot die on this car.
Try not to.
So it's quite cool. So he's starting to wake up a bit now. You can see he's moving around. We even, like I said, we were fortunate to have him open up his mouth. So fingers crossed that he does, while you are here live with us, do a big yawn, because it's quite spectacular. He keeps mouthing the water too, which is also an indication that he might do it again. But this is very typical behavior of hippos as we start to get into the later afternoon. You know, he's been relaxing, not doing much all day, busy at night, go out and feed. There we go. Look at that. That is so impressive. Beautiful. I can now confirm that he is a male. Males have got much bigger in sizes than the females. He's still quite young though. Like I said, I don't think he's a particularly massive bull. But we'll take you. We'll have you. And then he's also got a friend. Now, there's something else that's quite interesting and that I haven't been able to talk to you about, but there's a waterbuck, a female. Now, I know you're probably thinking, come on now, Taylor, it's just a waterbuck. But this waterbuck does not live in a herd like most waterbuck do. She is constantly on her own, and she does her own thing. I've also been seeing her for the last few months, so that's quite fascinating. I don't know why she's on her own. She looks heavily pregnant. As you can see, with big bulging belly. You can also see how wet the fur is from those sebaceous glands. You can see that's a waterbuck known for being quite smelly. But the thing is that I've seen her for the last 3 months by herself. So it's not like she's venturing off to go and, give birth somewhere. This just seems to be who she is. She's a solo traveler, so fascinating. And off she goes. But she lives around camp. Just to be careful though, because Lagatha, the lone lioness, another lone female, also likes to move around here late at night. We're due for her to show up. But no buffalo just yet. They might have come in a bit earlier today with it being cooler. I'm actually not sure where the big breeding herd is. Back in bed, interesting. You've asked about the sort of stormy conditions, lightning and thunder. Go wherever they want. I don't think animals necessarily realize that lightning is a bad thing. They carry on. Sorry about that. So I think, if it was during the day, the hippos stay in the water. They don't make any sort of dash to try and find a hiding spot. They just go about their day. Unfortunately, there are a lot of animals that do get struck by lightning. When we have these spectacular thunderstorms at this time of the year, I've seen a duiker. Actually, I think it was at Juma where we had a duiker. Hey, Sebastian, do you remember that? A little while ago, a duiker was struck by lightning. Yeah. Do you remember? I can't remember who it was with, but it was quite fascinating. You often see trees being struck by lightning, especially the big leadwoods and knobthorns and things that tower over the other trees. And then unfortunately things like giraffe, or any animal, wrong place at the wrong time, can definitely get struck by lightning. So it's just one of those things. Where have you gone? I do love it when they flick their ears like that in the water everywhere. Which way are you going to get out? Now, it's obviously nice to have a hippo around camp, but it also can be quite dangerous. So everybody is going to really have to have their wits about them, moving about the eco-training camp. Torches are an essential when living in the bush, and no, your cell phone torch does not count. That is insufficient light, and if I see you doing that, you get a stern talking to, that's for sure. Oh, we're going to roll over. Come on. Oh, no. I thought he was going to maybe roll over and you could see his feet, because hippos like to do that too. Yeah, I hope he doesn't decide to come marching through camp. There's not anything particularly tasty. There's no grass or anything like that. So I'm assuming he'd go in the opposite direction. And we also make quite a bit of noise. So that's a deterrent in itself. The only ones that seem to give us any trouble in camp are the elephants during the day, and then of course the pesky hyenas. They come and rummage through camp quite a bit too. now. So as the day starts to cool down, the sun is slowly starting to disappear behind the horizon. Our hippo is waking up, and it seems like the dogs are doing the same thing.
Our dogs are definitely waking up and are very, very curious about us. It's just lovely. Hello, dog. I have never been this close to you before. Why all this curiosity all of a sudden? Hi. Oh, that's so special. Do you hear that sneezing? There's a lot of evidence to suggest that they vote their movements based on that sneezing. Whether we should go here, go there. Very democratic. Hello, you. They're so curious about the car. There's an adult on this side who is nosing a netwing beetle. That's just on the stalk. Just have a look here. That adult there. That poor netwing beetle just almost had it. That's a story to tell. Almost got eaten by a wild dog. Painted dog. Smells rather pooey around me. Crazy. Yeah, all around. This is so exciting. Riley, you'd like to know if wild dogs smell fear? No, they don't. And no animal can smell fear. Just so we're clear. No animal can smell fear. It's not the type of thing that usually is smelt. What they can smell, though, more likely by a phlegm response, not by a nasal response, or not by just having fumes going up their nose, is that they may be able to detect your condition. They may be able to detect cortisol levels, which would indicate stress. There's all those things that may be detectable, but no animal can smell fear. I feel like a very, very lucky girl today. All the wild dogs were playing with me and having so much fun with me. At least I think so. I was just probably a point of curiosity for them. Well, they're off. So we will try to follow.
It just pretended to be dead. Oh, that was amazing. I can't. How do I? It's like that is hands down the coolest.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily. Have you been watching WildEarth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. WildEarth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live WildEarth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, my name is Taylor McCurdy and I'm coming to you from Eco Training here on Pridelands. My most favorite animal in Africa has to be the elephant that's behind me, and this is Kumo, you'll meet him. But elephants just in general, they're really sociable, they're always doing something, and I love to see the interactions between the members of the herd.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth. WildEarth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special WildEarth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes WildEarth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse. Become a WildEarth explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes. Terms and conditions apply.
As you can see, Thandi has all but, well, rolled over. She hasn't done very much since she lost her. She had a big stretch and kind of flopped around. And I was actually thinking about it now. You know, just very seldom do I ever notice, but these leopards very seldom lie on their backs like lions, and I was wondering why that would be. And it's probably due to the fact that they are not creatures that like to show themselves as much as lions. Lions in a pride don't worry about being on their back and their big white tummies showing, and animals seeing them like that, whereas leopards like to be a lot more kind of shy and reclusive and don't really want the attention. And so lying on their back, you can see how white that stomach is compared to the back part. It stands out a lot more. It makes them easier to see, and I would imagine if they lay on their back with their legs kind of open like lions do, it would make it a lot easier for animals to see them and alarm call at them and just attract attention to them, which is not what they want. So they typically lie side on like this. Very, very, very seldom will you see a leopard on its back for any prolonged period of time. They obviously do roll and they kind of hesitate when they get to that pivot point a little bit, and then they sort of flop down, but they don't do it very much at all. Now, the guinea fowl is still alarm calling, and Franklin's have been going, so I don't know what it is that is close by. One of the vehicles went to go and check, just in case it was her cub that was nearby, but they couldn't find anything. When we first were looking for her, we checked down there, didn't see anything. So I don't know if maybe there's a snake or some sort of bird of prey, but I can hear them going again now. So what I might do is just go take another turn past there. Like I say, maybe it is the cub and he's just been hiding. And if we do go around, we might catch him now that it's cooling down. I don't think she's going to move too much now, so it's a good time to go and quickly check and then make our way back again while those guinea fowls are alarm calling, although it sounds like they're going quiet now. But there's definitely disturbance down there. What it is, I'm not sure. When it's birds that are alarm calling, it can be many different things. I mean, it can be snakes, it can be birds of prey, it can be maybe even something like a monitor lizard. We did see a monitor down there, so possibly if there's a nest nearby, it's possible. But there's something that's not making them happy, and so it's worth going and checking what that could be. We're also close enough to Tswalu Dam that the fish eagles, which I've just heard calling now, if they're flying, they might trigger it. But Thandi doesn't seem too fazed by it, which is interesting, because often when guinea fowl alarm call, leopards will pop their heads up and watch and look and see what's going on, which doesn't seem to be the case this time. So I think I'm going to quickly just go scratch and just see what's there. Like I say, maybe we get lucky with a cub or maybe another leopard. And while we do that, let's send you back to andBeyond, Phinda and Dev.
Welcome back to Phinda, guys. So on our continued search for this cheetah, we stopped and scanned at the top of a hill and managed to get a beautiful, quite a long view of these elephants. So from where we saw them initially, we counted 5. we can only see 2 at the moment here now, and this one where we're having a look at is now, they've been slowly moving for the last little while, and they're feeding while they move. So because elephants are such large animals, they need to spend a large portion of their day feeding. And the bulls in the south here, this group of 5 often will feed on grasses. That's one of the things that's more abundant in this area. But also lower down in the dry riverbeds, there are these quite like thicket, scrubby areas with a little bit more shrubbery and slightly taller trees. And that's where these guys are at the moment, and very nicely just slowly moving. And you can see how they use their trunk, which is extremely dexterous, to grab bits of branch and leaf, pull it off and put it in their mouths to chew on, which is really quite amazing. It's a very unique activity or method, I suppose, of feeding. And also, if you have a look at this elephant's tusk that we're looking at now, they are not straight, so they are kind of not symmetrical. The one on the left's a lot lower, or his left rather, I should say, is a lot lower, and his right one sticks up quite a lot. And the one on the left's also quite shiny. I don't know if you'll notice when he lifts that trunk up and above the bush, the inside of that tusk has been polished from where he's been using it. So elephants will use their tusks as tools in combination with their trunk and their feet. They'll use it to break off bark of trees and use it to pull shrubs and big branches off of a plant. And they actually have a preferential side. So this bull is very much left-tusked. He prefers using his left tusk, which is coincidentally a little bit lower. Maybe it's easier for him to use his left tusk to break things off and to use it to scratch bark off of trees. You can imagine big trees. It's quite hard to get nice chunks of bark to pull off. So tusks are extremely useful things in those scenarios. At the moment, the bushes he is eating are quite a lot smaller than big trees, but they do have thorns on them. And he's just slowly, now he's playing with his food a little bit, I see, before he puts it in his mouth, shaking it around a little bit. Might be a little bit dusty, and he just wants to get the dust off of there before putting it in his mouth. Ooh. He's got those big, beautiful ears now that now that he's turned around, you can see the veins behind his ears and how close those veins run to the surface. And you'll often see elephant running around and flapping their ears, and people often say that that's kind of something that they do aggressively, which is not actually always the case. They also sometimes will flap their ears just to move cool air over those veins and arteries that run really close to the surface, and that helps them to keep cool. I've just been called and told, though, that Trishala has got wild dogs that are active and are on the move, so we'll leave these elephants to carry on feeding slowly as we go past them. If we get a better view, we might turn around and have another look, but otherwise we're going to keep searching for those cheetah.
The wild dogs are very active indeed. They've just got a scrub here. You can hear some crunching, but I don't think we'll be able to see very well. Maybe if I move forward just a little bit. Just through that gap. There we go. So they're definitely on the hunt already, ready to take down dinner. The pups are on the road, just chilling while the adults do the work for this evening. That's a bit graphic. If you're a sensitive viewer, maybe you don't want to. Too late anyway. Sorry about that, guys. But just be aware that when we are with them, you can never tell, because the hunt can happen so quickly. Didn't expect that to be ahead of a scrub here. Sorry about that. That was one very quick snack. And such a difficult thing because you don't want to get in the way of their hunt, so you don't want to move all the time, but they're moving all the time. And see a hyena skulking its way this side. It's a Koki Franklin that you're hearing. Stuck in bed, you'd like to know how long a hunt can last. And that's a really important question. So a hunt can last a long time because they put in effort for an hour, maybe 2 hours. They're putting in effort. So they're extending themselves for some time. They may not be successful, but they're in that mode of hunting, and that's why they overheat easily, because of their extended hunting period. And they do a lot of this where they catch little things along the way, and they'll consistently hunt. They don't just hunt one thing and then if they're done, they'll hunt an impala. They might take another impala, especially if there's lambs around. In fact, that's my plan. I think I'm going to go up to quarantine. And I just stand by. We know how much they like to hunt on quarantine, and we know how much food there is available to them on quarantine. Who do we have here? Soto. Soto, I haven't seen this hyena in a long time. I'm glad she's good. There's nothing left for you. So if you don't know, Soto is the youngest of the 2018 cubs. Hyena cubs, that is. And off she's gone. She's probably going to keep on following the wild dogs until she gets something. But we're going to take a chance and go on to quarantine. If I can get out of here, which I can. With a bit of... I seem to have a passenger. So I need to... There we go. There we go. I had a huge passenger. It was not a wild dog. Hello, Soto. You follow us? Okay, follow us if you'd like. What do we have here? Oh, I thought it might be eating something. Oh. It's just almost... It's got something, but probably very little. This is a puppy. All right, well, Tess is also looking for some wild dogs. Let's go over to her and see how her search is going. There we go.
So we're at andBeyond in Ngala looking for the wild dogs along the last section where I saw them this morning, and the elephants have created a bit of a roadblock. They seem to have pulled half of a quarry tree into the road. You can see where they've chewed on the bottom. There's a bit of a red section. So I'm
I'm actually just about to climb out of the vehicle and pull that out of the road so that we don't have to go around it. But it seems like the elephants have been quite destructive in this area. The trees to the left have also been pushed over, as well as some of the trees to the right. They've definitely been looking for some of those nutrients today, and maybe even some water. They would have looked for water in the bark of the trees and in the roots. So I'm going to clean this out of the road. And I'm going to send you over to Taylor, who's got some hippos in the water that the elephants are looking for.
That definitely sounds like something that we experience on a regular basis, is branches in the road. We spend our time clearing them up. Thank you, elephants. Luckily, hippos don't do too much of that. We don't often get to see the hippos, but they, of course, are not pulling down the big trees. So Mr. Hippo has had a siesta and has now woken up for the third time. Look at that gorgeous golden light just glowing on him. I wonder where he's going to prance off to. I'm hoping that he gives us some spectacular thrashing about in the water. I feel like he probably will. It would be nice if he comes to sort of the more shallower areas. It's not particularly deep, but with the elephants and where they've been swimming, you'll see that he does dive down into these sort of deeper depressions. And then he finds his way back up again. There's a nice deep channel right in the middle. Not that hippo particularly like deep water. They sort of prefer maybe something about a meter and a half, where their feet can almost dangle and touch the bottom, and they can still keep their heads just above the water so that they can bask their backs in the sun, and their nostrils, eyes and ears will be above the water's surface. Now, pangolin, when it comes to hippos and giving birth, obviously this one, we could sit here for the next 20 years and we'll never see it give birth because it is a male. But with that, I suppose it is safer for females to give birth in the water, but they don't give birth to the calves in deep water. They come to the shallows. But it's risky for any animal to give birth. I mean, look at it. It's lambing season now for the impala, and we see how they are just preyed upon heavily by a number of different animal species. So now for something like a hippo, hyenas would definitely be a threat. Even a big pack of wild dogs could come around and harass. You've seen wild dogs are not afraid of water. They'll often lay about in it and cool themselves down. We've also seen them chasing lots of prey into water. Lions, if they're about to, and then of course crocodiles. And I know recently there was a crazy sighting at Phinda where a crocodile took a cheetah cub. So crocodiles don't have any preference. They literally just eat anything they can grab or they can grab. So it's not necessarily that it's safer, because you imagine that little hippo, it's come into this world, it's quite disorientating, hasn't built up any muscle or any stamina to stand just yet. It takes a bit of time. Mom's going to be exhausted. So it really is, it's stressful. So mom will just keep to the shallow waters with that little one until it is able to move to sort of the deeper areas. Chitwa is probably the best place to sit and watch hippos in the Sabi sand. That was my favorite thing to do when I was guiding out at Juma, was to go and just watch all the little ones. I actually really miss it. I really do miss watching little hippos, and I think that they're the cutest. Oops, right, speaking of Juma, off you go.
We have ended up in the right spot. The wild dogs are hunting on quarantine. Remember, guys, it's going to happen so fast. It's going to happen so fast. So if you are sensitive, if you hear the ah in the voice, please look away. It's going to happen quickly. There's already impala that have been chased. I'm trying to get quite around them so we can have a good view and they have plenty of space.
I don't think they have any impalas, though, to chase. Oh, they were full speed. Right now, they're all scattered on quarantine. There's one closest to us.
Yeah, or some head.
There's some wildebeest in this. Let me just pull up my binoculars. Is that a dog I see? Yep, there's a wild dog all the way on that side by the wildebeest too. Harassing the wildebeest. All right, let us... Wow, that was quick for that dog to get there. Let's go round to that side. There aren't any more impalas here. It'll be tough for them to take a wildebeest if you're wondering. Not impossible, but tough. Leslie, you'd like to know if wild dogs hunt during the day and at night? They prefer to hunt at sunset and at sunrise. There's some culprits. We're just going to park off here. Tad bit further like this, give us some height. Basically, Leslie, whenever it's cool. During the day, they will not be hunting unless it's overcast or there's some special condition. And then impalas are gone just like that. You can hear the guinea fowl alarming in the background. Oh, just there's this tingling in the air, and that's something that the bush just is amazing. It's amazing when you feel that, and I think Tessa might be feeling a similar tingling. She's got a hyena with the kill.
So I've actually just come across a spotted hyena here at andBeyond Ngala that's got an impala leg that it's busy eating. You can see it's covered in blood. Listen to that crunch. And I'm thinking I got this from the wild dogs. This is very close to where we had them this morning, so they might already be out hunting. Maybe the hyena managed to steal it. Wow, listen to the strength of that chewing. It's just breaking through this bone like it's nothing. So it's actually got the full leg right from the hoof up to the pelvic joint, the hip joint. And that's what it's chewing on at the moment, is that hip section. Oh, it's actually got a piece of skull too. We're going to send you over to Juma quickly.
They've just started chasing now a steenbok. Not successful though. Whew. It's crazy when they're out here. Oh! Huge herd of impala. No doubt the dogs are going to be behind them. stuff. Someone's been separated because two dogs chased. There! They've got something. They've got something. Just check the dogs behind us because this impala is still stray. Watch. We saw that kill. How many seconds between we seeing this kill and them eating now? And how much will be eaten? It's going to be ridiculous. They eat so quickly. See, cheetahs need a recovery period for their metabolism to settle. But not these guys. These guys can eat straight away. All right, guys, and sensitive viewers, look away. They're able to eat with their body at a high temperature after coursing like this. They'll just tuck straight into it. It looks like a lamb. Unfortunately, it's just the way it is at the moment. Lambs are the ones that get taken. It's brutal, but it's much better than seeing an animal, squeal and writhe. It's quick. Everyone's got to eat, right? Shame. Time Walker, you say it's impressive? Watching wild dogs hunt is extremely impressive. The thing is, this is not the end of it. They'll make work of this lamb. And then they'll do it again. Look at that. Well, how many minutes was it between when we saw them take it down behind that termite mound? Or when we assumed they took it down behind that termite mound and them absolutely obliterating it. Couple minutes. It must still be warm. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. The others are still going to be on the hunt behind me. Running on the other side now. Let's take a swing around. It's basically chaos at this point. We'll follow this one. It's quarantine chaos. Nobody feels safe. Where's the rest of your pack? I don't see the rest of the pack. I just saw the impalas running. Let's take a quick drive around there. This one's static, still feeding. Sharon, you'd like to know how many times a day they'll kill? That all depends on what they kill. If they take a big adult impala, they might just do that kill for the day. Also depends on how big their pack is, how many mouths they've got to feed. But they can take, so it's a difficult question to answer, they can take many kills in a day, small kills, scrub hares, lambs, things like that. I see impala. But then they might take something bigger. Where are you, puppies? Sometimes I don't understand these impala, but I guess I'm not an impala. More running impala. Let's see if there's no wild dogs chasing. Do you see that with wild dogs, there's no time to alarm? Everyone just sprints, they're gone. No time. I think I see the dog coming down. Yep. Quite far away from us. Right. Thrilling, right? Thrilling indeed. Quarantine is the best space to view wild dog hunts. You can be so far away and still have an excellent view of what's going on. Like when we saw that wild dog take that lamb, we were very far away, but we could still see what was happening, and that's why quarantine is excellent for that. You don't have to disturb the hunt, your movements don't matter, you have roads in between, so you're not bundu bashing, there's no big bushes, there's just nice large trees. Can you tell that I'm amped? Because I am. Here we go. And we have some lazy puppies in the road, just for today. But things are going to be up and again thrilling in just a bit.
Welcome back to Phinda. I believe that was an amazing impala and wild dog sighting that you guys had. We are just going to take a moment to just take in the beautiful sight of the sunset that we've got happening now at Phinda, and we're looking out over beautiful plains here, and we're just going to take a moment to enjoy that. It really has been a beautiful afternoon here.
So I was sitting with that hyena that had the carcass, And all of a sudden, what pops out but the wild dogs? And this is the Ngala pack. It's the full pack of 21 dogs. And they're actually coming straight down the road towards us, and I'm so excited. So these are actually some of the pups that are running towards us at the moment. And that's a very small part of the pack. There really are a lot of dogs here. They're still going to come down the road. So I'm really, really happy. They're busy moving around, hunting at the moment. They haven't locked onto a target yet, but I'm sure that they will very, very soon. So they're actually playing off here on the right. Let's see if I can get them for you. It's so thick. Okay, yeah, I'll get them in here. They're already feeding over here, I think. Oh, I love that smell. They're actually playing. They're trying to evade us. This male that's about to come out in front of us, he is actually one of the oldest males. He's the old dominant. He doesn't have the white piece on his tail. So he's always quite fun to follow. Oh, I can certainly smell them. We are in quite a thick area. And actually, I know we were talking this morning about following wild dogs using their scent. Well, that is exactly what this is at the moment. I can't see them anymore, but I can definitely, oh, there you go. I can definitely smell them. You can hear some birds' alarm calling in the background. There's actually a vulture coming in from above. It's been following them. That's unreal. It's actually just landed on that tree. Those are all crested francolins alarming. I'm going to move you a little bit forward. The pups are all playing again. There we go. So they seem like they're playing with a bush of sorts. See if I can get you in here. Just wild dog pups everywhere that you look right now. Unbelievable. And I'm really, really happy that it's the Ngala pack. It's our biggest pack at the moment on Ngala. And so it's really, really exciting for me. So what do you know? So hyenas and wild dogs are actually from different families. Wild dogs would be closer related to things like wolves and jackals, and hyenas are actually in a family all on their own. So they're actually in a family called Hyenidae, and that's really cool because their closest relatives are, there we go, their closest relatives are actually mongooses, which is very exciting. So they are actually not as closely related as you would think. They're actually much closer related to the wolves. There we've got the whole pack on the road now, relaxing. Oh, there's a bit of discipline happening from one of the adults to the pups. So that's quite normal. Anytime that the adults want to remind the pups of where they sit in the social structure, they come in straight like that. They don't actually hurt the pups, but they just give a bit of a noise, open their mouths, and just kind of place their jaws over the pups, but not actually biting them. But you can see all the pups are actually grouped together in the road there. There's 2 or 3 off to the left. The rest of them are in front of us here. So they look like they're almost resting a little bit before they move again. I think they definitely killed more than one impala because they've all got a slightly rounded belly, and for one impala to feed 21 wild dogs, they would not have a fuller belly. So I'm thinking they probably killed one. Maybe that's the one that got stolen by the hyena. And then after that, they might have actually killed another one, and that's what actually filled their bellies. But they're definitely not done hunting for tonight. 21 mouths is a lot of mouths to feed. And so they're probably going to continue hunting for the rest of the evening until it starts getting a bit darker. There's a vulture coming over. That sounds incredible. So this is actually not all 21. I think the other half of the pack might be somewhere else. Maybe in the thickets. But it'll be really awesome if we can actually hear them hooting to find each other, or that squeaking noise. It's one of my favorite sounds in the world, like the wild dog smell is one of my favorite smells in the world. You get very, very excited when you can smell it, because you know that it means this is what you're going to find. And if you consider how rare wild dogs are, to have seen them at Juma and here this afternoon is unbelievable. So these are actually majority pups now, with only one adult. Unbelievable. Oh, we seem to have a little bit of action from one of the wild dogs trying to chase a vulture. That's what's interested all the pups now. They heard that commotion. Now, the wild dog pups are already taking part in hunts. They are old enough now to keep up with the rest of the pack. But I would say anywhere from around 6 months onwards, they would start practicing their hunting. They stay in a den site for the first few months of their lives, and the food gets brought to them. These ones, I would say, are between 6 months and 8-9 months now, and they're definitely taking part in hunts. They might be a little bit slower than the adults, but they are definitely there while they are hunting. They're learning and practicing as they go. I actually really enjoy, so this wild dog pup that's lying kind of in the middle of the rest of them has a black bar right through its white stripy tail. It looks almost like a polka dot. And this one that's standing here has white socks above its ankles. So these markings are what make wild dogs so beautiful and so unique. It does help them camouflage, but wild dogs would not be the same as the cats in the way that they hunt, and in the ways that, you know, they wouldn't actually have to stalk up on things. They do get fairly close, trying to hide, but they know that they have the stamina to outrun majority of their prey. They're definitely intrigued with something. They're coming closer. I think it might be the call of this bird. Got some yawning from some of the pups in the back. The tail almost looks a bit like a bottle brush, actually. Very big and fluffy and accentuated. So I don't know if you can see the pup on the right at the back has definitely smelled something. It's picked its ears up and started turning its nose into the wind. Unbelievable. We've been working all day to try and find these again since this morning when we lost them. Just like that, you bump into a hyena and all of a sudden the wild dogs appear. Oh, shame, that pup got a fright from the Franklin. Becky, yes, wild dogs, males and females hunt. They rely on the pack as a whole to hunt together, and what's different about them is that the pack is majority actually males and usually only 1 or maybe 2 females. So it's not like the lions where you would think more of the lionesses doing the hunting. The males can also hunt in lines, they do it quite well. But here it's the opposite social structure where you have majority males and 1 dominant female. And so they all take part in the hunt together. They are the most successful hunters in terms of kill rate. And you can see why. They've got amazing senses with those big ears, those wet noses and large eyes. And they're tall and thin and have a really large amount of stamina. They've got a ton of stamina. So they can outrun anything. They've got those big sharp teeth. So they really are a deadly predator. I think the pups are actually feeling a bit overwhelmed at the moment. There's actually a Natal spurfowl behind the pups in the road that's busy making a noise. And with all the different spurfowls and Franklin's calling, I think they were getting a bit overwhelmed there. Not really sure which way to look. It's like having a little puddle of wild dogs all grouped together in the road. Shame that pup actually got a fright from that spurfowl. So at the moment, this is actually majority pups that seem to be here. The adults seem to have spread out a bit. It might be possible that the adults have actually said to the pups, all right, it's time to stay for a bit. Maybe they know that there's hyenas in the area. Maybe they've smelled something and they want to go and investigate. And as soon as they've made a kill successfully, if they've left the pups behind for whatever reason, there'll be a lot of noise, a lot of squeaking and commotion. And that's when the pups will know that it's time to get fed. And if they have to get it down very, very quickly, if there's hyenas or something around and the pups haven't had a chance to eat, that's when they'll start swallowing it whole, and then they'll come back to the pups here where they're safe and start regurgitating that meat for the pups to eat. Oh, the two on the right are actually biting each other and playing a bit. Yeah, I think they're feeling a bit overwhelmed without the adults here with all of the noise of the birds. Unreal. Jackie, the largest animals that wild dogs will chase and kill will actually depend on the size of the pack that you are looking at. So in this case, if it's the Ngala pack, because there are 21, they might go for something like even an adult wildebeest. There's a lot of mouths to feed and a lot of force behind their hunting skill. So a pack of this size might go for something like a wildebeest. I have seen them chase wildebeest before. I've seen them go for young zebra as well, although the adults are incredibly protective, so the adult zebras often chase the wild dogs. But I've even heard of a pack of wild dogs going for young buffalo calves. So it would just depend on the pack size. If there's only, maybe 5 or 6 wild dogs in a pack, they'd go for smaller things like impalas, bushbuck, nyalas, maybe very young kudu, very young wildebeest. But it seems like the pups have all decided it's time to get up and start exploring. They smelled something, and so they're all facing into the wind and trying to figure out what it is that they have smelled. It all of a sudden got all of their interest. So I don't know if it was just one started getting intrigued by something and the other started getting up. But that is very typical for pups. You can see they've now settled again and started playing. As soon as one or two get active, the rest of them think that they're missing out on something. And so they get up and investigate as well. And now that they've realized there's nothing there, they're now lying down, playing. There's actually two grooming each other there. And typically that's exactly how wild dogs would greet another wild dog that's more senior than them. Is actually when they groom, they'll greet each other by licking the more dominant one on the lips or on the mouth. Beautiful woodland kingfishers calling here. That's actually an alarm for the wild dogs. Now they've all settled again. Now they've actually started grooming themselves, so very similarly to the lions that would groom their paws and things, the wild dogs will groom their own paws. They'll also groom each other. But they're not as particular as the cats about how clean they need to be. They actually smell quite strong, where the cats you can't really smell. And that's because they're so successful at hunting. They don't need to keep as clean as possible to try and not let other animals pick up their scent. They're strong enough to outrun things anyway, where the cats rely more on getting very close with the element of surprise. So you'll actually find sometimes, especially pups of this age, these little ones might actually, if they find a smell that they like that smells quite bad, they'll actually roll in it. And you'll actually sometimes find them urinating on each other as well. This one's come to investigate what's happening. A little bit of a braver pup with white on the chest of the second one. So they are definitely in that playful puppy mood today. Whoa! Oh, the adults come back with food. Have a look, have a look. Listen to the squeaking. So the adult at the back actually gave a piece of that scrub hair. There you can see one of the dogs has it. Now they're all going to start begging for it. Did you see how quickly that changed? All of a sudden, all the dogs were up. It's actually coming back into the road with that piece of scrub hair. There it comes. Now it's almost like a game. They're all trying to steal from that dog. It's still a bit of a game. They're running in circles around these pups at the moment. And these 5 pups in the middle aren't really sure what to do or how to get food. Coming back to the road again with its kill. That changed so quickly. I think they all got such a fright from that adult running in behind. I don't know if they thought it was maybe a hyena. So it's just this explosion of wild dog puppies out of the way. And then it was great excitement. I don't know if you heard all of that squeaking, but that's very typical of wild dogs to be squeaking like that as soon as there's food. So at the moment, I've actually got them pretty much all around me. I've got some pups in front of me to the left. Here comes the kill again. It's actually a scrub hair. You can actually still see the ears in that one's mouth. And they're definitely starting a game of fetch again. There you can see that kill. So we're going to stay here with them and see what happens. Hopefully they eventually do end up eating that. Poor little scrub hair. We're going to send you over to Tristan with his leopard.
All the dogs have been busy. So is Tundi. She's up and moving. She's basically walking exactly where she was trying to find those impalas. Which way they went is exactly in this direction. So she's doing a bit of scent marking as she goes, but walking where the impalas have gone and looking for them. I'm kind of hoping, though, that she's going to turn slightly towards Tswalu Dam, because there's the most beautiful afternoon light and this open clearing and these little bits of grass where their seed or inflorescences is catching the light, and it is absolutely beautiful. So I'm hoping that's the way that she heads. Also, there'll be a lot more impalas kind of on that open clearing than there would be where we are right now, as it's starting to get darker. So you're going to find that the impalas are going to go into the open clearing. She's just sneezing there as she goes, but she's definitely coming the right way now. Bless you, Tundi. What's wrong, girl? Did you get some dust in your nose? Shame. She's also going to have a tough time. There's so many francolins and birds and things that are shouting at her and making a big noise. Now, let's see where she goes from this one. I'm pretty sure she's going to scent mark on this marula, and then I'm interested to see whether she goes kind of south or if she heads straight in a westerly direction. She's going more south. Okay, Marcel, let's get ourselves into position. It's going to be a long shot, but let's try. I mean, I hope that it's going to work, because if she does go where I'm hoping she's going to go, it's going to be absolutely beautiful, but it's going to take an extraordinary amount of luck and for her to really kind of change direction slightly. But as I turn this corner, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about in front of me. You'll see there's this kind of golden shine on the grass at the moment, and I'm hoping to get her walking through that kind of golden shine backlit, which would be as beautiful as one could imagine. So that's the kind of aim and the goal. Whether we actually get it right, I don't know. We've got about 5 minutes for her to walk this side, but I don't know if she's going to. Looks like she's cutting more to the kind of west-northwest. But let's just go around and see. I see a car there. Where is she? Can you see her, Marcel? 2:30. How far in? Okay, so there she is. I can see her tail now. Let's just wait here and see. Hopefully she's just going to cross the road in front of us. It's going to be a little bit tricky. There's a few bushes in the way, but she should eventually just come straight over the road. There's some nice termite mounds as well that she could potentially walk on. You can see a tracker's foot there. That's not her. There she is there. She's kind of behind the worry bush. Not the worry bush, the terminalia, kind of coming in our direction. Let's see. So she's being very cautious. What she's doing is she's stopping and looking, and she's trying to scout what's in this open clearing before she makes herself kind of visible. There's a few waterbuck behind us that will most certainly see her and make a noise, but that's not what she's going to be wanting. She's going to ignore the waterbuck completely and probably just head more kind of southwards, looking for the impala herds that should be around these clearings. I'm intrigued to see which way she comes now, because she's kind of gone in. She just went straight through the thicket. Thought she might go around. But isn't she beautiful? There's a little bit of that late afternoon kind of soft light on her. I know she's behind a tree and stopped exactly where we didn't want her to stop. But let's see where she goes from here. You can hear a go-away bird calling and shouting at her. There we go. Oh, she's beautiful. You can see she's also quite wary as she goes. Like I was saying to you earlier, this is a kind of divide between 3 different females at the moment. So Tswalu does come here, but not quite as far east as we are at the moment. So Tswalu more to kind of the west, and then Kuchava to the south, and then her to the north. But there's definitely an overlap where we are right now, because when I was here 3 weeks ago, we had Kuchava exactly where Thandi is right now, walking around. So there's definitely overlap between those two. And then, like I say, Tswalu a little bit from the west. But it's going to... I kind of wonder how it will play out, because obviously Tswalu and Kuchava are much closer in age, and so they're going to compete for a much longer period of time than what Thandi is. Thandi's a much older female, and so her likelihood of competing with these 2 youngsters for much longer is not great, but she does have the experience on her side to be able to kind of move and manipulate those 2 as much as she can in order to kind of keep her territory. Also, she's got lots of space to the north. She's not getting too much pressure north of her, a little bit from Nsele, but not much. I guess you're asking about genetics between African and Indian leopards and whether they are different. So theoretically, leopard, so Indian, Indo-Chinese, African, these leopards all are a leopard, but they've been divided into subspecies because there's slight changes in them due to 1, habitat, and 2, completely different continents and food availability and all these kinds of things. So they've got slightly different structures. Whether genetically there's a lot of difference between them, I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you. I haven't read anything that says that they are completely genetically different, and if they were, you'd probably find that they would be made their own species. So like a snow leopard and a clouded leopard are their own. Leopards in general, it's just subspecies that are divided out from there. I'm going to just reposition slightly because this branch going across the frame is not very pleasant at all. So we'll just turn our wheel down a little bit, and then we'll get kind of nice, well, better view, should I say, of her. We'll make a little bit of space so that the other guys behind us can also fit in and not have that log kind of blocking their view. But she's, I think, just using this log as a way of basically hiding out until it gets darker before she approaches this open clearing. It's a nice spot that she can just sit, and if anything moves around her, then she's able to kind of watch it from over that and be a little bit more camouflaged. As soon as she walks out into the clearing, she's most definitely going to be seen. So this is a spot where she can just kind of sit and wait and look around. I also think she's slightly disappointed in the fact that I cannot see an impala for the life of me on this open clearing, which I think is probably the first time ever at this time of the day that I've not seen an impala here. Maybe she's slightly aggrieved by the fact that there's no impalas for her to go chase down. I don't think she'll be down for long, though. It's the time of day where she should be moving. But we do know also that cats, particularly lions more so than leopards, this is a very typical way of moving at this time of the day. So it's get up, walk a little bit, lie down, get up, walk a little bit, lie down. Leopards don't typically display it, but they can from time to time. No, she's not interested in anything right now. I wouldn't be surprised we see that head just fall to one side and her flopping back down again. I suppose we can give her a little bit of a break. I mean, she is 14 now, so she's earned her right to nap when she feels like napping, rather than kind of showing off all the time. But it's just such a stark contrast, the sighting of this morning of that young leopard versus a much older female. You can see how much more exuberance there was in Zutini this morning than there was in Tandi this afternoon in the way that she moves. All right, well, we'll sit here with her. We'll see what she gets up to. I'm sure she won't be down for too long, and hopefully she'll carry on walking and hunting.
WildEarth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special WildEarth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes WildEarth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse. Become a WildEarth Explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes. Terms and conditions apply.
We've seen these ellies really chase wild dogs before. Let's get into the spot. There we go, there it comes. Look at that, isn't that amazing?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name attached to her, so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Juma. If you become a WildEarth Explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag, which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
My name is Taylor McCurdy, and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced, and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on WildEarth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
Our dogs are still on quarantine, running around, but at the moment there's only the wildebeest, but they have that tiny calf, and we were watching them for a little while, and we could see the wild dogs behind them, and then we moved to the side of them, but now they've moved away from that little wildebeest head and that tiny calf. We still have eyes on them, they're just a little further away. Could it put us in a position where we might be able to see better? Sometimes it's difficult to even to see if there are stray impalas around. So we're just going to have to watch them and take our cues from them. It's just beautiful to be out in quarantine and to watch this. that adult's obviously regurgitated, so they must have caught something little in between, because that little impala lamb that they ate on that side, it's been a while since they caught that one. They don't have terribly strong stomach acid, so they're able to regurgitate pretty much completely undigested meat for the pups. That one's sniffing. There's one in the far area that's sniffing around where the carcass was from earlier. There's not any new action. This is their time now. Sun is low. It's nice and cool. They've got at least something in their bellies. It's their time of the day. So the puppies will kind of stay away and wait for the adults to regurgitate for them, while the adults will set out hunting. Sandra, you'd like to know which diseases wild dogs are prone to. Canine distemper, but apart from that, there's things like bacterial infections and stuff like that. They can be susceptible to anthrax, for example. Those things that could affect any carnivore. Their major issue is habitat destruction. Being shot at because they're pests. I mean, that happens less often now, but there was a period where it would happen a lot. Those are their main issues. Everyone fighting for the drumstick at Christmas. That's what it looks like. This may sound very macabre, but it is very interesting when any predator makes a kill and there's a carcass. And the way that they manage to eat it and strip muscle and things off of it. You saw the way that impala's leg was swinging at the joint. It's interesting to see that kind of movement because you don't get to see that movement when the animal is alive. And yes, it may sound gruesome, but it's also an observation that you won't be able to see any other way. And I've had that experience a lot of times with leopards especially. You get a whole host of anatomy lessons when you watch predators. I'm gonna try and find the adults now, because they will definitely be going off and trying to find another meal. So I'm gonna send you over to Tristan and Tandy. I wonder if she'll also be hunting at this time.
Well, no, she's stopped now, although all the cars have left and all of a sudden she's perked up and is grooming and looking as though she's ready to get going. There was a yawn even, so maybe she was just waiting for everybody else to go and then she was going to just take us along for a little bumble across Chitwa Open, which would be really nice. I'm kind of hoping that that's what she's going to do, although I get this feeling that this grooming is just prepped to have a little bit more of a nap. Doesn't seem like she's that interested just yet to pop up. But like I say, when the vehicles all left, all of a sudden she woke up from her slumber, popped her head up, was looking around, started yawning, grooming, and maybe it's now just time for her to walk. I hope it is. We've been patient with her this afternoon, so it would be good if we did get something. You often, your patience gets rewarded. It's one of my big things about being out in the wild is find something and spend time with it. Rushing from one thing to another often means you'll miss out on the small intricacies and ways of an animal's life. If you spend time with something, you're almost guaranteed at some point to be able to see something interesting within that that species. If you're just going to rush around and you're just getting small snapshots of that animal's life and therefore not learning a lot about them, and that goes for everything. It's not just leopards and lions and wild dogs, and it's elephants, buffalo, all these animals. The longer you spend with them, the more you start to understand how they fit in within their ecosystem, how much how they are able to cope with being out here and what they need to do in order to survive, whether it be predator or prey, the ways that they go about it. It's all fascinating, and how it all connects is what really is intriguing. And I find often when you spend time with animals, and it might not be that you see something from a leopard, but you might see a bird come past with something unique, or you might see a lizard or a snake, or you don't really know, or sitting with that animal leads you to another animal. That's why I think sometimes just being silent in the bush and being off and sitting with a species often will lead to other things. So it's one of those biggest pieces of advice I can give people that go anywhere on safari is to be patient and to not rush it. The more you rush and the more you go from one thing to another, the more difficult it is. But it sounds like the dog's up to something, so it's quickly send you across to Trishala.
So the adults have taken another, what looks like 2 lambs. Maybe it's just 1 and 2 pieces. And I've now brought it back for the pups. The sound of the begging is just unbelievable. So it is now being chased by a wild dog. I'd like to just change the pace very quickly and look at that. In the middle of all of the hunting and the commotion, there's a dung beetle rolling a dung ball. Do you even know what's going on around you? Dung beetle? Just minding my business, and then wild dogs and hyenas, and I can smell half impalas. Oh, it's a special place to be out here in the bush. Just totally on its own vibe. It's that cool. I want to get further up to where the other adult is. That looks like it's a little bit more intent on finding a meal. There's also those two adults there as well. Guess we'll just wait and see what their plan is and take our cue from them. With them. Pangolin, you'd like to know how we recognize the alpha pair. They'll usually be the pair to lead, but I find that those two associate with the pups a lot more closely. That for me makes them very easy to recognize. You'll often see them sitting with the pups when the rest of the pack is not, or sitting closer to the pups. And when the alpha pair come along and play with the pups like that, the pups go crazy. Just like what you saw there, but they were also expecting some regurgitation. I think they only got a little bit though, because they brought back the actual carcass for them. The excitement seems to have subsided just a little bit. But this is how they'll spend most of the evening. David, you say that was devoured quickly. Oh yes, they eat very, very, very quickly. No time wasted. Sometimes there's just minutes between a whole impala and skin and bone. I was just about to say, I think Sutu has learnt the lesson. But I can just see her through the bushes, making her way. This is not the first time she's been snapped at by wild dogs. She almost got a bite not too long ago with James. Someone comes bearing gifts. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. What an evening with the wild dogs. Or maybe there'll be more action, I'm not sure. You can never tell. But I'm going to send you over to Tristan and Tandy. See what they're up to.
Well, just watching Tandy catching flies. I mean, it's nothing major, but she seems to be on a little murder mission, much like what the wild dogs have been. But hers has been small little buzzing insects as opposed to impalas. Krishala has certainly been treated this afternoon. Let's this morning we saw a lot of chasing, but very little reward for all of the chasing. But we kind of knew what would happen if they went to quarantine. We were talking about it this morning, that if they were going to hit quarantine, they were going to cause absolute carnage. And so that's what's happened. Like I say, on Tandi's front, she's lacking impalas at this stage. She's looking for them, but hasn't seen any. And so she's being assaulted by flies and therefore is being offensive to them. And you'll see her snapping and kind of mouthing every now and then, and that's just trying to bite these flies that are landing around her ears and her eyes and her face. So she keeps watching down towards some Egyptian geese. Maybe she, like Inzutini, has spotted some young Egyptian geese and wants to go and kind of stalk them. But it looks like all adults. It looks like the adults are fighting down below there, which is also not uncommon for Egyptian geese. But otherwise, it's quiet here. I would have expected a lot more movement on Chitwa Open. Waterbuck always present here, but I expected to see a lot more impalas. You often find nyala in the afternoons here, all kind of potential prey items for her. It just seems as though it's quite still, and I wonder if maybe she was already here this morning or during the day, and that's what's already caused a bit of an upset and moved and shifted animals a little bit. But it is very, very, very still in this area. It's actually beautiful just sitting here in silence. Marcel and I sat here just now just watching her and listening to all the sounds. And it's that time of the day now where a lot of the sounds are just starting to peter out. So, woodland kingfishers and franklins and guinea fowls and the likes are all slowly starting to ease off for the day. And you're starting to slowly kind of get those nocturnal sounds coming through. So things like the nightjars are slowly going to start making noise as well. I always love that transition in the day. There's just this certain period of stillness, and then all of a sudden it erupts into the nighttime sounds. She's at least a lot more awake than what I thought she was going to be. At one point she was kind of flopping down again, and I thought maybe that she was going to sleep, but she does seem like she's looking around. So, Andre, that's really dependent on areas and habitat. So what a leopard can do here versus what a leopard can do in the Kalahari Desert or the Cape Mountains is two very, very different things. And that's due to a number of reasons. One is here we have a much higher density of prey animals available to them, as well as water. And a lot of vegetation that attracts animals for them to eat. So leopards in this area tend to be larger, but also to have much smaller territories. So the average size territory that we have here in a female would be about 3.5 to maximum 6,000 hectares. And a male leopard as much as 10,000 hectares, whereas in the Kalahari region there's been leopards they've recorded that have territories of over 120,000 hectares. So it gives you an idea of how it works. Where there's an ability to support a lot more prey and water, that's where you'll find leopard populations generally a little bit higher. And as the population gets higher, so obviously the size of territories shrinks and decreases because there's so much competition, and it's still a possibility to find food and water to survive. If they had that size territory in a place, like I say, like the Kalahari, it would be very, very difficult for them to survive just due to the lower numbers of food availability. Right, well, we'll sit with her. We'll see what she gets up to. She looks like she's curled into a ball, so we might carry on. Maybe we'll get lucky with something else down the road.
Just gonna sit and watch these pups have a bit of fun and listen to all their gorgeous sounds as they do that. was a wild dog calling in the background as well. Oh, just amazing to listen to all of these sounds.
Well, as you can see, we've left Thandi to her own devices. She's curled up in a tight little ball, and there's still some monkeys alarm calling around Twin Dams area. So I just want to quickly go and check there in case maybe Mulawati is around. If not Mulawati, it could be Sabui, it could be one of Sabui's cubs, it could be Kalamba, it could be anything. So worth just going and having a little look, given that Thandi is so fast asleep. Also, there are quite a few vehicles that are on their way to her, and we've spent a large portion of our afternoon. In fact, we've spent 3 hours with her this afternoon, so it's time to allow others a chance. Here's all the impala here. You guys don't go that way. That's not a good way for you to go. There's a leopard there, especially you, little one. Don't go that way. They're not listening. They're hard of hearing, these impalas. They're going to learn a valuable lesson if they do go that side, because Thandi, like I say, with all her experience, would probably love a little impala for dinner. Right, now, like I say, we're going to head towards Twin Dams. What I do need to do, though, is probably get my spotlight out fairly shortly, because it is quite dark, and if there is a leopard around, or anything really, I'm going to probably have to rely on eye shine more than I'm going to be able to rely on my eyesight now. It's getting to that time of the day where particularly something like a leopard blends in so well that it's so difficult to actually pick them up unless they're on a road or walking. If they're just lying down. Come on, off you guys go. Sometimes I wonder about impalas. They kind of like see you coming and then they just stand there. And then they kind of get a fright when you come up. And other times they just go over the road. It's weird. But yeah, so we're going to go down the hill, and where the drainage line is in front here, at the bottom of this hill, is where those monkeys are alarm calling. So we're going to go and quickly check there and see if anything is happening.
So you will not believe what happened with the wild dogs. They bolted off in the other direction, managed to chase a leopard, the Ngala female, up a tree and disappeared. And now I can't find them. They're gone. I don't know where. So I'm looking through this clearing. I'm really, really hoping that they are coming in this direction. The last place we saw them was coming this way. So I'm just driving really slowly, listening for bird alarm calls and hoping that they're coming out into a clearing looking for some more food. But everything happened so quickly that it was absolute chaos. And so now I find myself driving around thinking, did that actually just happen? Oh my goodness, what a crazy day it has been today. In the best possible way. So it is getting quite dark for the wild dogs now, which is why they're so active. But luckily with the infrared light, you know, if we do find them again, we can actually have a decent look at them using the infrared. It's actually quite a perfect temperature right now. It's not too hot. Nice and cool. And I'm seriously going to freak out if we find these wild dogs again. Poor leopard was stuck up a little bush willow tree. And then she disappeared too. Oh my goodness. It's actually quite funny because you can drive, like while you're driving, you can smell where they've been. So you can say on the radio, I've smelled them, but I can't see them. It's been very interesting to try and find them again. So I'm relying more on smell than anything right now, but hopefully I get to find them again for you before we stop driving this evening.
Oh, I hope that you do. We've had such an awesome time with our wild dogs, and You too, Tessa. These guys have settled down now. Pups are well fed, I think. But the adults are still mooching about on quarantine. Sutu the hyena is still on quarantine, so I suspect that the night is not over for them. Some lapwings not so happy with the presence of the dogs all over the place on quarantine. Now they're sitting on a nice warm road. I can hear a hyena squealing in the background. Moondust, you'd like to know if there's a hierarchy amongst the puppies? No, there isn't. So all the puppies belong to the alpha pair unless the beta pair has produced offspring. Chase for the hyena behind us. You might have just heard that. This was a bit too far away. And so all the offspring have the same parents. Unless, like I said, it's the beta's offspring, in which case the alpha is likely to absorb those pups and take them as her own. So there's no hierarchy amongst them. Oh, these sounds. Something interesting. I'm just going to inch forward here. Hopefully we'll get to see the pups. There we go. There they are, enjoying the final rays of sun, or kind of like leftover dull bits of sun, as the darkness is going to well and truly set over Juma and the Sabi sands this evening. Oh, listen to these sounds. We've got hyenas squealing, we've got hyenas whooping, wild dogs begging and squealing too. It's just epic. So beautiful to spend this time with the pack. Just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Well, I think you'll all agree that we've had an epic sunset safari. And we'd like to thank you for watching, for your questions and your comments. And we'll see you in the morning, and I hope for an equally epic sunrise safari. Bye-bye for now.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, good morning. I hope you all are so well. Here you're looking at a view which is basically telling you my plan. If you recognize this road, this is the road to the Hyena den here on Djuma Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands. And I'm very excited because I'm hoping that they will be around. And that is my plan for the day, is that I'm going to go check out the hyenas and hopefully spend some time with them. If not, let's just listen out for what clues the bush might give us today. Still a beautiful view, a little bit gloomy, but